Shalom Aleichem to everybody. Chodesh Tov, Mishenichnas Adam Arbim B'Simcha. We know when we enter the very auspicious and special month of Adar, we have to increase our simcha, our joy. Ve'en simcha ela Torah. The greatest joy is the joy of enlightenment, which I'm sure Rabbi Mizrachi, it's an honor and privilege to sponsor his lecture tonight here in our Bet Knesset Ma'or HaTorah. And I want to really give a very warm welcome to all our guests. Beruchim habayim b'shem Hashem. And I'm sure you have read Rabbi Mizrachi's biography. Rabbi Yosef Mizrachi was born in Israel and served in the Israeli Air Force. So us Persians really love Sahel, and Baruch Hashem, Rabbi Mizrachi, both physically and spiritually, is defending the nation of Israel. Upon completing his time in the Air Force, he immigrated to New York and dedicated his life to the awareness of Judaism among all Jews. I must admit to you that there's a few people, even in our community in Santa Monica, which is literally thousands of miles away, that were really, really touched, and Rabbi Mizrachi changed their lives. Because you know, the speed of light, the Torah is light. That's the name of this Bet Knesset, an organization. The light of Torah can spread around the entire world. Rabbi Mizrachi has given thousands of lectures on various topics and has spread Torah all over the world through radio shows and video projects. He currently lives with his wife and 5 children in Monsey, New York. Many of his lectures can be accessed through his website, divineinformation.com. So we're very honored and privileged and very happy to have Rabbi Mizrachi with us. I just wanted to take a few moments to thank our sponsors. Many of my colleagues throughout the different organizations and Kenisas, Rabbi Margareftan Chachamzadeh in Or HaEmet Institute, Rabbi Nurola Bet Aharon Torah, Netaneli, Hechal Moshe, PureTorah.com, our dear friend Mr. and Danny Agalar, Young Sephardic Community Center, Mr. Muradian's HCC, Santa Monica Glad Kosher, Pinto Torah Center, HCC, Rabbi Louis, Rabbi Chakshur, Chacham Yosef, which his brother is the assistant rabbi here, and Yachad, Kolel and Torah Outreach Center are all sponsors of tonight's event, and we thank them very, very much for this beautiful crowd. Yeah, I'm not done yet, Pava. I also have to give a very special thank you to a very special person we have in our congregation. It's no coincidence, his name is Mashiach. Mr. Fabio Yoshei, it was really his idea to bring, we had the tremendous honor of having Moreno Berabenu Harav Eliezer Ben David a few months ago, and really Mashiach, Farbod said that it's very important. We have such a beautiful and big area here that we should have more speakers, so we really are indebted to, he also made a flyer, and so we're very indebted, and thank you to Farbod for, it was really his idea. I have to also thank, last but not least, my very dedicated assistant rabbi, Rabbi David Chakshur, which has just gotten married. And this shiur is dedicated for the Refuah Shlema of Tova Bat Narges, B'toch Shar Cholim Israel. We hope that Hashem gives Refuah Shlema to all the Cholim. And for the Leilul Nishmat Monavar Bat David, and Bar Eliyahu Ben Yaakov HaKohen, which is Mr. Kohen Zadeh's father. He sponsored all the refreshments. So we thank everybody for joining us. Last but not least, Orly Saidi, and everybody, if I forgot to mention anybody's name. Thank you everybody for joining us, and please don't forget, this Saturday night we have a very special Purim party for singles on March 8th, 8 o'clock, and Be'ezat Hashem, we hope that this month of Simcha, all the people that are single should get married under chuppah with the right person, with their soulmate. And God should give refuah shlema to all the sick people. And without no further ado, Kvod Harav Rabbi Mizrachi, please. Yeah, please put your cellular phones on silent or turn them off. And even though it's the Oscars tonight, Baruch Hashem, we have a better catch here.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Ekman. Yeah, the Oscar. There's two worlds out there, the real one and the illusion one. Some people still prefer the real one than the illusion one, Baruch Hashem. Thank you very much for coming. Have a great month, all of us. It's the month of Adar Bet. It's a very interesting lecture tonight. It's called Life After Death. I'm going to change it because once I repeat the lecture more than once, I always make some changes. So even if you watch the previous ones, we will add some new things here. In today's generation, we find that there are different groups of Jews, which means some are very, very religious, some are less. It's different levels of religion. When you come to the very, very religious groups, which what we call Talmidei Yeshiva, the Mekubalim, all these big Chachamim, everybody lives according to this fact that there's life after death, there's reincarnation, the souls go from one body to another. It's a well-known thing to every little kid. Nobody makes a big deal out of it. It's very well known. Everyone is aware of it. The problem begins when we go to different parts of the nation. Some people who never learn or never heard about these things, they're very skeptic. They look puzzled when it comes to proving there's life after death, or when they hear rabbis speaking about reincarnations, not only they don't believe in it, some of them are really opposed it. I believe that every person who have 5% honesty in him, not 100%, 5%, after watching the next hour and a half, not only will never have a doubt that there is life after death and there is reincarnations and everything that the Torah and the Kabbalah explain, he will be a huge supporter of this idea because it's already been proven scientifically, as I'm going to show you. This lecture is not only for secular people, it's also for ultra-Orthodox people who still have doubts and they're not sure. Many, many times we find that people that are very religious in their lifestyle, they're asking questions, how is it possible that righteous people suffer? It looks to them that maybe there's not enough justice in the world. Or when they see wicked people or evil people, and they celebrate and everything is fine by them, they get upset. They say, where's the justice? The righteous people don't get what they deserve, and the wicked people don't get what they deserve. So in that case, where's the justice? The answer is, of course, there is a justice, but the people, as a creation that the creator of the world put here, don't even have 1/1,000,000% knowledge about what's happening in the world. I repeat, not that we don't have 1% knowledge of what we have here, which is already makes it bad as it is. We don't even have 1,000,000% of what's happening in the world, the way God runs the world, all the details, all the lives that we were here before. Everything is a continuation. And before I will start the presentation, I just want to give you a parable that you understand what I'm talking about. A person went into a cinema, into a theater, and he watched 1 minute of a 2-hour film. 1 minute only. They brought him in 10 minutes after the film started. He saw someone is holding a knife and sticking it to someone's chest and opening the entire chest and blood's coming out. And right after that, they took him out of the theater. And they asked him outside, what happened? They say, wow, what a horrible movie. There's a murderer over there stabbing someone with a knife. And I'm telling you, I mean, they took me out, but probably another minute from that, this person will be dead and everyone will be crying. Horrible movie. So they say, well, this is what you got? Say, yes, horrible movie, horrible hand. This person died, an innocent person laying there. It's not fair. Where is the justice? So they say, okay, now please go back to the next 5 minutes. And now they're showing him that the one who stuck the knife in was a great doctor who already saved many lives. And he's fighting, struggling to save the life of these patients. And 5 minutes later, we find out that all the suffering that this patient had actually saved his life. Now they take this person out and they say, please explain now, what do you think about the movie? So he said, wow, this person that stuck the knife is not a murderer. No, of course there's justice. He's a great doctor, saving lives every day. He's an angel. Wow, I love him so much. So but a minute ago, he wanted to kill him. If they put him in your hand without checking the details, you would chop his head off, no? You were ready to say, wow, he's a murderer, he's a monster. This is us. This story, it's almost each one of us. We have questions, we have comments, we have criticisms. We don't understand the movie. We see the life of a person here 60, 70, 80 years, and we forget that he was here many, many times, as I'm going to prove to you soon. And then we're wondering, we say, why this righteous person suffers so much? Where is the justice? I'll give you another example and we'll start our lecture. I have a friend, he's 50-something years old by now, and he never got married. Until he was 30 years old, he didn't want to get married. He had few opportunities. He wasn't in a rush. He had other plans. From the minute he wanted to get married, just not working out, in the last 20 years, full of frustration. One frustration after the other. That's one of the epidemics in the Jewish world today. That many, many people get to a very late age and they're unable to find their shidduch, which I'm going to say a few words about that later on. So one time he said to me, I don't understand what God wants from me. What? I'm not looking for a woman to make sin. I'm looking for a woman to build a kosher home, to establish a Jewish Orthodox home, to send my children to yeshivot, to dance in their bar mitzvah, to raise them for Torah. What is Hashem doing to me? Well, why? What's going on? What? This guy is starting to give me names of very wicked people. This guy has children. This guy has children. This one has children. Saddam Hussein has children. And only I don't have? What is this? What's going on? Religious all his life. So I told him, let me ask you a question. Now you're very upset, right? Imagine now I press play on a video. This is a divine VCR. Divine. Comes directly from Hashem. And Hashem say, Mr. X, I want you to see yourself in a previous life. Just 60 years ago, before you were born, before all that, your soul was in the body of another person. Let's say you lived in Syria, whatever. And you were a Syrian Jew or Iraqi Jew or whatever you want. And you lived in a different place and you were married 4 times. And each time you abused your wife, you broke her ribs, you were a horrible husband, you destroyed her mentally and physically, and you're a horrible father, and your children suffer one by one, you messed up their life. And then after all this horrible life that you gave to your wives and your children, you came in front of Hashem, and Hashem said to you, okay, now there are 2 options. One is that I will really punish you for what you did for all these innocent people. Or one, I will send you back to life, and you live all your life single. And the frustration of not having a woman will be a punishment, measure for what you deserve. You deserve a lot worse, but I'm very merciful with you. So instead of really giving you a punishment, all I'm going to do is make you live healthy and happy without a wife. Well, you had 4. You didn't appreciate it. Now it's time to pay. would you still feel frustrated? He said, oh no, if that was the case, then I would perfectly understand it. So I answered him, I said to him, my friend, my dear brother, do you suspect that God, which declared in the Torah that is the most righteous and honest thing you can ever imagine, He will give bad to a person that deserves good? We don't want to do this. If we have someone that did a favor to us, if we have to do something against him, it will burn the heart. No, Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't hit the water because the water hit him. When the Egyptian looked for the babies, Moshe said, I'm sorry, I was hiding in the water, it saves my life. I cannot make the Nile's blood or the floor where he buried the Egyptians. He did not, 2 of the plagues he refused to perform. Aaron had to do it. And it's raw material. It's not even people with feelings. The water don't have feelings. The sand doesn't have feelings. But already a decent person feels horrible that he has to give back to someone who did so much good for him. Right? And this is something we find many times in a court, the Dayanim, if the Dayan knows a person did a favor to him, right away he dismisses himself from the case. They tell him, why can't you judge it? He said, this person once brought me a gift in Sukkot. I cannot be his judge. I already have sympathy for him. This is the nature of us. So what do you think, that God is worse than us? We are not as bad, and He's much better than us. He doesn't give us anything unless if we 100% deserve it. So now it comes down to emunah. Do you want to believe that what God writes in the Torah is real? Or you suspect Him, God forbid, that He's lying? That's really what it comes down to. If, God forbid, you're in a level to suspect God that is lying, what can I do? There's nothing I can do. But if you're intelligent and smart to know that God is not one of us that sometimes lie, He doesn't lie. And when He say I'm fair, He's fair. And when He say I'm honest, He's honest. And when He say I judge everyone fairly, it means 100% fairly. Then we should never be upset. Ever. Why? Whatever we have now, this is exactly what we deserve, for good and for bad. Plus, we have to know one more thing. There's really what we call good and what we call bad, not necessarily it's good and bad. Many times a person got fired from a job, and he cries non-stop. He cries and he cries. Why? He lost a few $1,000s job a month. So he's very upset. But a month later, the terrorists attacked the place, and chas v'shalom, everyone got hurt, and he's the only one who got saved. So what's the first thing he's thinking about? Why did I cry for 2 months for nothing? It's the greatest thing who happened. Or, God forbid, the other way around. A person had chas v'shalom something that looks like a tragedy. So he's thinking, why did Hashem did this to me? If he would know all the details, he would know that it saved his life. So in that case, he will feel so great that he had a minor injury and his car got totaled. Big deal, $20,000, but I got my life. And there are thousands of examples like these. We cry for what we shouldn't, and sometimes we're happy for what we shouldn't. Sometimes a person makes a lot of money, is very happy. 20 years later, you see the money destroyed his life, destroyed his children, destroyed his marriage, destroyed his personal life. So then you go back retroactive, you say, I wish I would make the money. They made an article about all the people who won the lottery. Only 2 reported that it was good for them. Hundreds of others say it destroyed their life. Only 2, it says it did good for them. Everyone else is saying, I wish I would not win it. Some of them already found themselves in a bigger debt a year later than what they had when they won. Hard to believe, but that's reality. So let's move on. This lecture is built on scientific evidence, scientific proofs, and what the Torah told us 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. When I say 2,000 years ago, let me explain. The Torah was given to the Jewish people 3,300 years approximately ago. However, not everything was written right away. The oral part of the Torah was written approximately 2,000 years ago in a Mishnah, in a Gemara, and in the Zohar. What does it mean, Zohar? Kabbalah. Who wrote the Kabbalah? Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Does it mean that Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai invented Kabbalah? God forbid. All the rabbis before him, the big ones, had the knowledge. However, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, with his Talmid Rabbi Abba, gathered all of it together, and some of the stuff that the angel taught him when he was hiding in a cave for 13 years into one amazing book, which has lots of secrets, thousands of secrets in it. And we find today, we are amazed by the knowledge that the Zohar had. We see right away that it's all divine information there. So it was written down, and even though the book was written, no one really had it in public until about 700 years ago. It started to spread to the world after one rabbi started to push it everywhere, Rabbi de Leon, that was his name. And slowly it became famous. But everything we know about Kabbalah, 99% of it comes from the Ari HaKadosh. Rabbi Yitzchak Luria Ashkenazi, who lived in Tzfat 500 years ago, he buried in Tzfat, next to Rabbi Yosef Karo, the one who wrote Shulchan Aruch, next to Chana in Shivat Banea, next to some of the prophets. It's a very, very important cemetery, perhaps the holiest in the world, in Tzfat over there, where the biggest rabbis in history are buried there, all in one half an acre territory. All the most important rabbis ever lived, right there, in one area. And everything that we know today in Kabbalah is thanks to the Ari HaKadosh and his student, Rabbi Chaim Vital. Rabbi Chaim Vital is buried in Syria. The Ari is buried in Tzfat. Everything we know, the Ari told his student, Rabbi Chaim Vital, and later it was published, and the rest is history. What we see today, many yeshivot of Mekubalim, in Yerushalayim, in different parts of Israel, all is based on the main books of the Ari HaKadosh, which was written by student Rabbi Chaim Vital. In the books of the Ari HaKadosh, there is a chapter that called Sha'ar Agilgulim, the chapter of reincarnations. The Ari explained for what sins a person needs to come back in a new body to correct the damages that he made to his soul in his previous life. This is a very, very intense book, and it explains all kinds of things that happen to our souls. But if I would not be able to prove to you scientifically some of the things that this book has, perhaps we would not meet here tonight. Now when I'm able to prove it scientifically, then it makes the Ari, every word of what he says, we can see in our eyes today that it's 100% proven. So here we go. We're starting right now, as you can see. The beginning in the Torah, something happened today to the computer, and they decided to write some of the letters in Arabic or in Persian. Maybe you can help me out. I don't know. It's some kind of a bug, but that's okay. I will explain to you what it says. In the book of Genesis, chapter 2, verse 7, this is what it says. Vayitzer Hashem Elokim et ha'adam afar min ha'adama. God created the human being, Adam, sand from the ground. Vayipach be'apav nishmat chaim. He blew into his nostrils a living soul, some spiritual energy. Vayehi Adam lenefesh chaya. 3 steps. First step, creating the body from the sand, material. Second step, blowing and divine energy, what we call in Hebrew neshama, what we call in English soul, into the nostrils of that Adam. And what's the third step? Vayi Adam lenefesh chaya. After the soul entered the body, through the nostril, through the nose, the person became alive. He's talking, he's functioning, he's listening, he has a memory, he is able to walk, and all the things that we do today started after the soul entered the dead body. The body that was created is a bunch of molecules. You cannot move it. Only once the soul went in, it moved the body, and you can hear, and you can talk, and you can do things that without the soul, there's nothing you can do. How a person dies. In the book of Kohelet, King Solomon, this is what he wrote. והגוף יושב לעפר כי ממנו לוקח, and the body will return to the ground because that's where it came from. והנשמה תשוב לבעליה כי הוא נתנה, and the soul will return to the boss, to the owner that gave it. So it's very clear, according to the Torah and the Tanakh, there's no questions what life is. Life begins after the soul enters the body. Life ends when the soul exits the body. That's it. 2 steps. Coming in, there's life. Going out, there's no life. However, the soul is eternal and the soul lives forever, and there's no way to kill the soul. Why? You can only kill something physical that is temporary in time. Something that is not material is not subject to time. It's endless. It's eternal. There's no way to kill the soul because the soul is an actual integral part of God himself. As the Ramchal explains in the book of Mizrachi, chapter 1, that when God blew the soul into the body, Chazal explained, Man de nafach midele ke nafach. The creator that blew the soul into the body of Adam blew an actual part of himself into Adam. So all the traits that we have, all the positive spiritual such as mercy, love, and etc., we received it from our Creator because this is where the soul came from. One soul entered the body of Adam. And today we have 7.4 billion people in the world. How one soul became 7 billion? Every person has a soul. Without it, he cannot move. Jews and non-Jews. The answer is the Kabbalah teaching us that one soul can split to many, many different parts. But let me explain. When you take a table, it's 3 feet long, and you cut it to 3 equal pieces. Each piece will be 1 foot. If you want to cut it again in the middle, so now you're going to have 6 pieces of half a foot each. So the more you cut it, the smaller the pieces will be. Until you'll get to a point there's really nothing to cut. You need a big microscope to see where you're cutting because it's so small, there's no way to cut anymore. This is only with material, because material takes space. But when it comes to spiritual, it doesn't take any space and it doesn't have an image like here. Which means a soul of a person that is 7 feet long can reincarnate in a body of a mosquito. The mosquito is only 2 millimeters. How 7 feet enter in such a small body? When it's material into material, it has to match. When it's something spiritual, it does not take any space. Just like the Torah teaching us that God does not have an image, doesn't have a shape, doesn't have a size, doesn't have a color, is not subject to time, it doesn't have a beginning and an end. Everything material has a beginning and one day will have an end. Something spiritual doesn't have a beginning and an end. It's very tricky. People cannot understand. Why? Because we only understand things that are subject to time. Because everything we do in our life is subject to time. Everything, walking, eating, sleeping, talking, everything is a matter of time. Many, many different groups of time we added together to one lifetime. But this is only because we live and we are material, even though we have a soul inside the body. The body is material. And the body is temporary. However, something spiritual doesn't have a beginning. Why? Because there is a rule. Albert Einstein already published that rule to the world. Time exists where material exists. When there's no material, there's no time. Albert Einstein was a very smart scientist. There's no question about that. But 700 years before Einstein, the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, already wrote everything that Einstein spoke about time and material. The Ramban already spoke about it 700 years ago. The difference is nobody in colleges know who Ramban is. He was in Spain. It was in the old days. Not exactly have record of him in colleges. Einstein, it's modern days. So they know what he said. But really the Torah already spoke about it. So let's move on. The Gemara in Masechet Nida, now many of the proofs that I show, it comes from the oral Torah. Remember, some Jews, They say, Rabbi, I believe in a written Torah. Don't get me wrong. Of course, I see that God gave it. We got it in front of millions of witnesses. We cannot deny such an event. The Jews received the Torah in front of millions of witnesses. The whole world testified that the Jews received the Torah. The Muslims admit, the Christians admit, many of the 80,000 religions and cults who came after the Torah do not try to deny that the Jews received the book from God. So many of the people in the world admit, billions of people know the Jews receive a book from God. So where the problem begins, about the book, most people do not argue. They argue about what we call Talmud, Gemara, Kabbalah, Torah shebe'al peh, oral Torah. Why they argue about the oral Torah? Because they said, where does it say that God gave oral Torah? The rabbis made it up. It's all what the rabbis made. The rabbis were every day, every once in a while, they were bored, so they made a meeting. So how can we make life harder for our brothers and sisters? Let's be a little bit more cruel. We're too lenient, so let's make their life much, much harder. You know, the Torah says to do 1, 2, 3. We want to add 3 more 100 decrees that everyone will be upset and depressed, and we will feel great that our Jewish people, they're all very upset because now they have to do 100 times more than what Hashem say to do. That's what they basically claim. There's only one problem with this theory. What? First, when you read the written Torah, it says clearly that there was an oral Torah. God wrote, those are the Torahs, in plural, that I put in the hand of Moshe in Mount Sinai. So it's more than one already. So it's more than one. Okay, good. But it gets even better. Why? There's about at least 5 or 6 places in the Torah that I remember, it's probably more, that God said to Moshe, do it as I showed you in the mountain. How did I show you in the mountain? It does not say a word in the written Torah. What kind of film he showed him? Make the menorah. How? The way I showed you. Do this. How? The way I showed you. How you showed me? It's not in the book. How anyone would know how to do it? Don't worry. Once you do the first one, everyone else would learn from you. That's it. You don't need instructions. It's go from word to mouth. Today we make matzot. You don't need really instructions how to make matzot. All you have to do is to see how your father was making. And he saw how his father made. And he saw how his father made. And it's always the same. Even by the non-Jews it's like that. Tony saw how Vinny lit the Christmas tree. Right? So Tony, when he saw his father Vinny has a tree, Tony knew to buy the same tree. Imagine Tony bring roses. They say to Tony, what are you doing? He said, no, I like to change. He said, no, you're not allowed to change. It's tradition. You have to do exactly what our fathers did. And this is the way life is. Now, in another place in the Torah, this is what it says. It says that there are 613 laws to keep. 365 restrictions, 248 organs. There's only one problem. I'm going to tell you a little short story. Tell me if it makes sense. I came here and I say, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the new judge in the Supreme Court in California. I'm the new judge. I'm going to make some new rules here. Okay, rule number 1. There is a car that if you drive that car, you're subject to heavy penalty. So everyone say, what? What kind of car? I say, I don't know. It's not in the Constitution. Okay, next thing. If you open a bank account in one specific bank, you're going to lose all your money. Which bank? It doesn't say in a book. Next book. If you get married to women with this kind of hair, right away I will force you to get divorced and go to jail. Okay, which women? It doesn't say in a book. Does it make sense to you? If I give you such a constitution, I tell you 1 or 2 things, and the important things is not appear in my book. What would you say about me as a judge? Not only I'm not a judge, even a gardener I cannot be. Why? What kind of judge is this? This is a judge? So what are you saying, that Hashem is worse than this? Hashem gave us 613 laws, and not even one of them, it says in the Torah how to keep it. Not even one. Hashem says you should have a sign on your hand. Where does it say tefillin? Where does it say it has to be black? Where does it say what to write inside? Where does it say which hand? Where does it say from what animal? Where does it say if a woman or a man has to make it? Where does it say what happened if a non-Jew made it? Where does it say if you miss a leather, if it's kosher or not? Where? There's thousands of laws apply to tefillin alone. Just tefillin, you have to learn 2-3 years to know all the details. Where all the 3 years of knowledge appear in a written Torah, there's only one sentence. You should have a sign on your hand and in between your eyes. In between your eyes literally has to be on the nose. So you have a big nose, the tefillin will fall. There's no place to stand. Okay, so that's the way the Torah, based on the written Torah, it's very strange how there are people who criticize the oral Torah, but they do exactly what the oral Torah say. For instance, one time I spoke to a conservative Jew, Persian. He said to me, I told him, you know, you're not allowed to do what you're doing. You're making a party and it's not kosher according to the halakha. So he told me, your halakha and my halakha is different. So I said to him, but we follow the same Torah, no? He said, yes, but you coming to tell me things from the Talmud, which I don't believe in, he said to me. I said to him, let me ask you a question. Do you put tefillin every day? He said, of course. So I said to him, who taught you how to make your tefillin? So he said to me, what do you mean? I said to him, show me in the written Torah that you follow, where does it say how to make tefillin? So he started to get angry. Why? When you see you speaking nonsense and someone caught you, there are two options. Either you're honest, say, you know, you're right, I never thought of it. Let me double check myself. Or you get angry. Listen, don't disturb me now. It's two different kind of people. I give you another example. Another example. It said to do Brit Milah, to circumcise the baby in the 8th day. Where? Doesn't say where. What tools to use? It doesn't say. What happened if the baby is yellow? It doesn't say. What happened if it falls on Shabbat? It doesn't say. What happened if this baby had 2 brothers, they were circumcised and God forbid they both died? Are you allowed to do the 3rd one also? It doesn't say. There's hundreds of laws. Are you allowed to prepare hot water for the baby? What happened with this? What happened with that? What happened if it's inside? What happened if you did half of the job? There's many questions. Where does it say how to circumcise the baby? Nowhere. The most important card to enter the Jewish nation, one sentence. Circumcise the babies in the 8 days, cut the orla. What orla means? Nobody knows. It's a new word. Orla. So Itzik say, I think orla it's this. The ear. Cut it over here. His friend Asher said, no, what are you talking here? He meant the hair. Hair you can cut. No one will be upset. So, yeah, but some babies don't have hair. You find one. You cut. That's the Brit Milah. One said, no, you fool. He meant the nails. Cut from the toe, a little piece from the nail. That's Brit Milah. One said, no, it was only metaphoric. It doesn't really mean to cut anything in the body. It means to put a nice sweater that the grandma made, and you cut the last string. That's what it means, Orla. Right away, Moshe Rabbeinu came down from the mountain, 1,000 different Brit Milah. Multiplied by 3,300 years. Do you think one Jew would make the same Brit Milah today? Everyone would have his own Brit Milah. But obviously, all Jews have the same Brit Milah with thousands of laws. The Yemenite, the Polish, the Persian, the Syrian, they're all gathered in Israel. Same Brit Milah. I never saw anyone cut somewhere else. How did I know? There was no internet, no telephone, no Facebook. Nobody can write, Rabbi, are you in Poland? Tell me over there, what are you cutting in Poland? It wasn't like that. So before people criticize, I suggest they learn at least 1%. What does it mean, oral Torah? And then they feel that it's very foolish to criticize something like this, because without it, there's no Judaism. Just to conclude, if, God forbid, the enemies of Israel would come today to the Jews with weapon, and they said to them, listen, you have to give up one of your Torahs, the written or the oral. If not, we kill you all. One you have to give up. You choose which one we will have to give up, God forbid, if something like this happened to us. We will have to give up the written Torah. Why? So we won't know his story. So maybe one day we'll forget the right order of all the names. But we would know what to do, what to keep, and to get our ticket to life of eternity, as the Torah promised to the righteous Jews. However, if we keep the written Torah, and we give out Shulchan Aruch, Rambam, Talmud, we'll give it all up, 2-3 generations later, not one Jew will know what to keep. So we have a beautiful Torah scroll, but we don't keep one law. We cannot be righteous. So just to show you, when you say Judaism, it's 99% oral Torah that God gave in Mount Sinai, 1% written Torah. That's the right order. Not like most Jews think, 99% written Torah, 1% oral Torah. Forget it, it's wrong. It's all oral laws. Moshe came down and he started to show people how to circumcise, how to make tefillin, how to slaughter the animal, glad kosher. All the things that we did today, how to make matzot, how to do brit, everything 100%. They saw how Moshe demonstrated, and they went, and that's how it spread. And today we do exactly what they did 3,300 years ago. Why? I learned from my rabbi, who learned from his rabbi, who learned from his rabbi, until all the way to Moshe Rabbeinu. Nothing changed. Same exact thing. Okay, so let's move on. So the oral Torah says like this. 3 partners in a creation of mankind. God, his father, and his mother. His father gives the material that makes the bones, the ligaments, the nails, the brain inside the head, the white inside the eyes. The mother gives the material that makes the skin, the flesh, the hair, the pupils inside the eyes, and God gives the spirit, the soul, the image of the face, the ability to see, the ability to hear, the ability to talk, the ability to walk, wisdom, and intelligence. When the time comes for a person to die, lo aleinu, comes God and take his share and leaves what the father and mother gave and disappear. That's the time of death. Now, if you pay attention to the list, you see that the father and the mother gave everything 100% material. And what God gave, it's everything 100% spiritual. To see, to hear, intelligence, wisdom, feelings, all these things, all comes from God. When the time for a person to leave this world and he takes his soul out, the soul has all the things that I mentioned. Once he takes it out, the body stays there, the ligament, the muscles, the blood, the veins, everything is there. But it's all worthless. By the way, you should know one more thing. After a person passed away, you come after 11 months to the grave. This is the way it usually is, unless if this person was extremely righteous, then the body stays full in some occasions that we saw. But overall, 99.9% of the people who goes to the grave, 11 months later, nothing left from their body besides bones. It's very interesting. Sometimes you come 200 years later, you see the bones there. There's nothing else besides bones. Who gave the bones according to this list? The father. What did the mother give that left in a grave? Nothing. Only one thing that the father gave to the boy or to the girl left with them. What the mother gave, nothing left. Why? Because the mother got her bone also from the man. God took the DNA from the rib of Adam, and from that he duplicated what the scientists do today with the sheep. They duplicated another creature. So he made from the DNA of Adam, he made a female as an assistant to Adam. Since her life came from Adam, so Adam really gave life to her and to all the people who comes later. That's why when a person dies, only the bones left in a grave. Nothing else. Nothing from what God took and nothing from the mother left with him. Only the bone stays in the grave. Let's move on. And the Torah in Sefer Dvarim, Deuteronomy 18, verse 10, 11, the Torah has, as I mentioned to you, 613 laws. 365 restrictions. From the 365 restrictions, three of them are do not dare to disturb the dead people with questions. Don't communicate with the people that died. What, as intelligent Jews, what do we understand right away? A, that the people that we thought that they died and they're gone forever, they're not really gone forever, they are somewhere. We do not know how to contact them, but they only move from this world to a different world. Why? God knows what he's talking about. If he comes in the Torah and he says, do not ask questions from the dead people, I don't need him to tell me what every fool knows, right? If I see a person is laying here 2 hours dead, hey, Itzik, 1 minute, get up, tell me how you feel. If I talk to him, people say, this guy is not normal. Imagine if someone filmed me and put it on YouTube. You won't see me in LA again. You know? So what's going to be? If I speak to a dead body, people say it's not normal. Obviously, when I speak to him in a normal way that we speak to a living person, it's not going to help. There's a way to communicate with them. Right now, we do not know yet how, but the Torah already told me, don't disturb the dead people. So what do we know? First, that the dead people never died. They only moved to another place. Second, we know that when you communicate with them, it's disturbing them. They don't like it. And the third thing is that we know that the dead people knows what we do not know, right? From one sentence in the Torah, we already learned 3 very important things. This is a divine book. 1, the dead never died. 2, if you call them to this world, they get very upset. And 3, they know what we do not know. That's why the Torah said, don't disturb them with questions. Okay, so let's move on. In the book of Yov, which is a part of the Tanakh, Yov say, Or ubasar talbisheni uve'atzamot vegidim tesochecheni. You made my outfit skin and flesh, and bones and ligaments. So the question that we have to ask is, so who we are? If the outfit is the flesh and the skin and the bones and the ligaments, so who are we? Obviously, we are something else. This is only the box. Who are we? The answer is the soul. In the book of Yeshaya, Isaiah chapter 2, it says, Min ha'adam asher neshama be'apo, from the person that has a soul in his nostrils. When Rachel passed away, the wife of Yaakov, the Torah didn't say Rachel died. First, the Torah say the soul of Rachel came out, and then it says the next verse, Rachel died. So the Torah says clearly, the soul of Rachel came out of her body, v'tetzeh nefesh Rachel, and then after that she died. And there are many, many examples in the Tanakh that death means the soul comes out of the body. Let's progress a little more. The Gemara says in Masechet Nida, page 30, it says that the baby inside his mother's womb is folded, like round, like a ball. And there's an angel who teaches him the entire Torah in the 9 months that he's in his mother's womb. And once the time for him arrived to leave the world, he tapped him on his lip, and some kinds of hocus pocus the angel does, and he makes him forget everything. And he's born to this world, and his mission here is to learn Torah with a lot of efforts. Whatever you got as a gift, you got as a gift. Now you have to earn it on your own. This is what happened inside the mother womb. Now, some of the things I'm going to skip, because otherwise this lecture will be 3 hours, so you will forgive me. By the way, I bought you free CDs over there, courtesy of good people here who sponsor them. And you can take, I brought extra from this lecture, Life After Death. Over there it's more professional, with music, with all the sources, and it's longer. You can watch everything with some films over there of people who died and came back to life, and people who remember their previous life. Some of the things I'm going to show you. The rest you can see in the film. Okay, so let's move on. There are 5 ways to prove that there is life after death. 5 proofs. How? First, clinical death, which what we call out-of-body experience. There's another way to describe it, temporary death. Person is dead 2 minutes and comes back to life. 5 minutes, comes back to life. What does it mean, dead for 2 minutes, 5 minutes? Means the soul came out of the body, but then returned to the body. And we're going to see some examples. Second way to prove it, it's seance. Seance is using a middleman, medium. And the middleman is a person who has spiritual abilities and is able to relax 100%, which is very rare, complete relaxation. And from that person, we are able to ask questions from someone who passed away, and that person gives information through the middleman. And the middleman speaks what the deceased person is telling him to say. Now you may say, it's a trick, he's pretending. No, no, no. We're not that fool. How do we know he really speaks to the dead person? Because we ask the grandfather, Grandpa, tell me what you told me when we were hiding 10 years ago inside the closet and you gave me this watch. Tell me what you told me. And all of a sudden, this person, which is half asleep, he repeats word by word what the grandfather told you. And only you and him knows. Nobody else knows. This person doesn't know. And he repeats exactly things that happened between you and someone that you love that passed away. Private information. And that's how you know that you're actually communicating with the spirit of a person that you know and he passed away. The third way to prove it, it's what I said before, what we call reincarnation. What we call in Hebrew, Gilgul Neshamot. Souls are transferring from one body to another. How do we know there is such a thing? There are a few million people in the world that when you speak to them, they can tell you all their previous life in details. It can be kids, it can be some adults. They say, right now my name is XYZ. 50 years ago, my name was such and such, and I live in this city, and this was my wife, and those were my children, and I used to own that store, and I live near the train station, and he gives you information about a different country, and then you go and you check all the details, and you find out that he's not lying. Everything he told you, you can be verified 100%. In many cases, not only it can be verified, the people who he's mentioning right now are still alive. So you can go and verify with them who was the husband, how did he look, how did he die. All the details that this person telling you right here in the United States, you go now to Russia and you verify it with a woman who he claims she used to be his wife, and then you see family albums, and then you bring it to him, and you say to him, can you tell us all the relatives in the album who they are? And he goes one by one, and he say, he's my uncle, he's my brother, he's my grandfather, and he describes all the people in the albums, one by one, which in physical, he did not even meet these people in this life. And if we're going to have some time, I'll show you what I'm talking about by showing you a film of an Arab kid in Israel, a Druze, when he's 7 years old, standing next to his grave and crying, and describing how he died. And this is his grave from his previous life, and now it's already in a new body. Now, the fourth way to prove, it's called regression. What does it mean, regression? We can hypnotize people and bring them back in time. Let's say we have a person right now, 30 years old, all his life lived in America, speaking only one language, English. That's it. We know that person. We take him to a parapsychologist, and the parapsychologist hypnotizes him and makes him go into full mode of relaxation. And what happened after that? He begins to go back in time. He said, tell me where you are, August 12, 1990. That's 24 years ago. So now he was only 6 years old. He's 30 years old right now. Now you see this person begins to talk with a voice of 6 years old. He's 30. Sitting here on a chair, and you film it with a video, and he begins to talk with a voice of 6 years old. And then you say, let's go back another 15 years in time. How? 15 years, it's before he was born. And all of a sudden, sometimes you hear complete silence. No answer. Tell him, tell me where you are in 1960. Nothing. Let's go to 1950. Nothing. Let's go to 1945. All of a sudden, he speaks German. And he doesn't know German. He's an American kid. So you bring an interpreter, and he begins to speak to him in German, and you film the whole thing. And you ask him, what's your name? Hans. Where do you live? Berlin. What do you do? I just miss Mincha. I'm looking for Minyan. And he's describing him like it's now. Right now, 1940, it's raining, I'm freezing, I lost my job. He's talking mamash like he's in 1940. Why? You go into his soul and gets information from his subconscious, which is something amazing. And then later, when you bring him back to conscious, you show him the video, and he looks at himself speaking German, and he says, I don't understand. How can it be? I never spoke German in my life. What am I saying? And they tell him, this is who you used to be. And there are many, many videos like this in the world, and that's called regression. And then one last way to prove there's life after death, it's called dibukim. Dibuk means all of us, if we're normal, we have one soul in our body, one soul only. Sometimes, I don't have the time to explain all the reasons right now, but you should know, there is a phenomena that a person that has one soul in his body, one day has another soul enter his body. So now in one body, there are two souls. What happens when you have two pilots in one plane? One wants to take it to Iran, one wants to take it to Tel Aviv. What happened? There's only one wheel, one stick to the plane. So when the terrorist pushed the El Al pilot, he turned the plane to Iran, so the El Al pilot is out of commission. Then the El Al pilot pushed Mustafa, and he takes the wheel and he turns it to Tel Aviv. And once he turns it to Tel Aviv, they both fighting, so the plane is dancing, left, right, until Hashem knows what's going to be. This is exactly what happened. Two souls are fighting who will gain control in their vocal cords. When the first one, who is us, that we live here with the soul, speaking normally, then you hear the voice of the person that you know. Then all of a sudden, you hear a complete different voice, different accent. If your friend is a man, all of a sudden a woman can speak. Or if she's a woman, all of a sudden a man speaks from her throat. So you see a little girl, 17 years old, and all of a sudden she speaks with the voice of a man 50 years old. Sometimes different language. Something like this happened 100 years ago in the time of the Chafetz Chaim. There was a 12 years old girl. She went to the barn. There was a horse over there. After she went over there, the horse fell and died. And all of a sudden, the girl started to speak with the voice of a man. Nobody knew what to do. They asked the Chafetz Chaim, which was the chief rabbi of Europe, and he sent his Talmid, his student, Rabbi Elchanan Wasserman, with a group of students from the yeshiva to remove the dibuk out of this girl. How long did it take them? 1 week. 1 week they were begging the soul of that wicked person who entered the body to agree to come out of the body. Why is he inside the body? Because he's hiding there. It's protection for him, it's shield. And like I say, I don't have time to teach us all the Ashgacha of Hashem, the supervision of Hashem, why things like this may happen, but just that we understand that it can be that another soul enters a person's body and now two souls runs the body, sometimes him and sometimes her. Let's move on. There are some rules in the world of science, and I know some of you are doctors, I recognize. So if you're doctors, you should know that according to the law of medicine and the law of science, if a person is dead for 6 minutes and longer, after 6 minutes, if he comes back to life, he should have a permanent brain damage. This is the law. There's an exception to the rule, but the law is that if no oxygen go to the brain for 6 minutes, no pulse, no breath, no brain waves, no feeling, body temperature begin to drop, You have all the symptoms of a dead person for 6 minutes. Even if you come back to life, the memory cells should be deleted, erased, and a person should, chas v'shalom, have horrible life after that. Up to 6 minutes, there's still a chance that he will come back partially damaged or not damaged at all. But 6 minutes and longer, according to science, it should be already, that's it, a living dead person. But today, we have an incredible phenomena. The exception to the rule became a rule by itself. What does it mean? Exception to the rule means you have 1,000 cases. For every 1,000 cases, one person made it more than 6 minutes. That's a miracle. Doctors know that sometimes there are miracles. Not everything has an explanation. But what happened if from 1,000, now you have 50 people that already make it more than 6 minutes and they come back to perfect life? That's not an exception to the rule already. That's a rule by itself, which actually changed the rule of the game. Let me give you an example what I mean. Dr. Raymond Moody, a very famous psychiatrist from Virginia University, made a research with 150 people that died and came back to life. He wrote his conclusions in his books. The Life After Life was translated to 30 different languages. That's how popular his books are. Professor, psychologist Carlos Osis, I'm giving you the most famous cardiologist, parapsychologist, very famous psychiatrist all over the world, not just names from local areas, top names that according to all opinions are the #1 names in this world of psychology and psychiatry and parapsychology. And psychologist Carlos Osis from the United Union of Psychology interviewed 877 doctors that testify about their patients who died and came back to life. Just a week ago, they published on the internet of a person that was already in a refrigerator covered with a sheet. Inside a body bag, I'm sorry, not sheets, inside a body bag, banging on a body bag which was zipped by the zipper, banging inside. After hours, he was dead. And it was all over the news, and someone sent it to me by email because you know I speak a lot about these topics. So the next one is Dr. Kenneth Ring, a psychology professor from Connecticut University, 2 years research, 2 full years, 102 cases of people who died and came back to life, published his conclusion in his book, The Life in the Death. Dr. George Ritchie, the president of Richmond Academy for Medicine and the head of the psychiatry unit in Towers Hospital, published his research in a book, Return from Tomorrow. The biggest in the world, according to all opinions, the biggest in the world, Dr. Elizabeth Kovler-Ross from Detroit, a psychiatrist, world-known. She examined for 20 years, this was her mission in life. More than 1,000 cases of people who died and came back to life, published many books and articles. Soon we're going to read some of her conclusion. Dr. Maurice Rawlings, a cardiologist from Tennessee University, 300 cases. Dr. Frank Schoonmaker, cardiologist from Denver, more than 1,000 cases he checked. Obviously, they all come with one similar conclusion from A to Z. There's definitely life after death. The Gallup, they made a research. How many people reported that they died and they came back to life? The answer is, in the United States alone, more than 8 million Americans reported death and returning back to life. When we say 8 million, that means it was a lot more, but not everyone bothers to run to his doctor and told him, you know what happened to me the other day? I saw my soul flying in a room and I saw my body and my children and my house, and then all of a sudden I woke up inside my body. Not everyone bothers. It's much more than 8 million, but 8 million is good enough. In the world, 30 million cases. You know, people always are sarcastic. Anyone returned from there? Mishu chazar misham? Someone returned from the dead to say what's over there? The answer is yes. 30 million reported that they returned from the dead, and soon we're going to see what they all had to say. Very interesting. So we move on. Let's give the mutual element what all these people that die report when they come back to life. First thing that they say, that the soul, once it came out of the body, the soul is flying in a room. So imagine a person, his body is on the floor, and he feels that he's flying in a room like a piece of paper flying in the air. And he sees everything around, he sees everyone screaming, he sees the ambulance, he sees the police, he sees everything. But there's nothing he can do, because he looks at his body wounded or electrocuted or heart attack, whatever the case was. But he sees himself flying in a room, he sees everything, but he doesn't understand what's going on here. Then, the next report is that they find that after they're going higher and higher towards the ceiling, at one point, they're entering a tunnel. In the beginning, the tunnel is very dark, and they feel that they're like flying inside a valley. And it's a tunnel, round tunnel, and they go and they fly. It's like mamash flying like a rocket. And then after a few minutes, or after X amount of time, the tunnel starting to have light. They begin to see a huge light, and every second the light becomes stronger and stronger and stronger. They all say that the light is so strong, there's no light in this world that comes even near such a light that they saw. But at the same time, they were able to look directly inside to the eye, into the light, and not get blinded by it. Over here, if you have a little flashlight in your eyes, you cannot open your eyes. But over there, a huge light, in incredible spiritual feelings, mamash, like a person feels a huge attraction to this light, and is able to look at the light, but at the same time, is not being blinded by it. Then the next step, they begin to report that they see their relatives, grandfather, grandmother, friend, uncle, people who already passed, slowly, slowly flying around him. He begins to recognize them exactly like they used to look over here. And they're like coming to welcome them into the next world. That's what they all reported when they came back to life. Remember, Jews, non-Jews, male, female, all ages. I'll give an example. There was a kid. There was a girl, 4 years old. She died. And the doctor were doing everything they can to bring her back. And after a few minutes, she came back. And after she came back, she asked the mother and the father, who is this kid? So they say, well, why are you asking? She said, I was in a place. There's a kid came to me and told me, nice to meet you, I'm your brother. So I told him, I don't have a brother. So he said, yes, because I left the world where you are before you were born. But I'm your brother. So she went to the parents, non-Jews. She said, is it true that I had a brother? And they started to cry. They never wanted to tell her that before she was born, they had a baby and he died. And he already came to speak to his sister who died clinical death and came back to life. Then they begin to report that they saw their entire life from A to Z with millions of fast pictures, not regular video, millions of very, very fast pictures. One after the other, 1, 2, 3, very, very big, one after the other in the right chronological order. They said that the ability to record so much information over there, there's no limitation. You can get much more information, not like here. Over here, if a person show you 5 pictures, you're already confused. But over there, there's no limitation. The soul absorbs everything. Millions of quick pictures from the time they were born and crawling on a rug until the moment of the accident. And let's see some of the things they report. All of them were able at the same time that they were up there, at the same time they are able to be aware of what's happened around their body. So if the body was in a highway in an accident, they report what happened in the upper world, and at the same time they report what happens around the body in two different places simultaneously. And the doctors couldn't understand how they were able to know so many details from two different places at the same time, while they did not have a pulse, no brain waves, no oxygen, nothing whatsoever. Here is some of the examples. I was up, I saw how the doctors work on my chest. They connected the shocks, and I saw how my body is jumping from the electric. At that moment, I fell heavily back into my body, opened the eyes, and came back to life. And another one, I knew I'm dying, but there's nothing I could do about it. Nobody heard me. I came out of my body, there's no doubt about it. I saw my body laying in a surgery room. I heard the doctors are giving up on me. I felt horrible because I did not want to die. And obviously some of it I'm going to skip. And this is the information that they are giving. All of a sudden I saw light. In the beginning it was dark, but then it became strong, huge. Hard to describe. It did not blind me. I saw the surgery room. The light asked me if I'm ready to die. I had a feeling that I'm talking to a person, but it wasn't a person. It was the light that speaks. I knew that the light knows that I'm not ready to die. I had a feeling like I'm being tested. I felt so good. I felt confidence and love. It's hard to describe. And all of them reported that relatives came and they communicated with them through telepathy, not real words, it's through telepathy. I saw my friends with complete body, the hands, the face, etc. One non-Jew, a Gentile, this is what he said. He said, I was very embarrassed from some of the things they showed me. They showed me what I did wrong. I was thinking, I wish I would have not done all these things. I wish I can go back to the beginning and correct them. Major disappointment that I did not do anything in my life. I did not achieve anything. I do not know anything. I did not complete anything. This is a non-Jew. Now, according to the Torah, a non-Jew, all he has to do is to keep 7 major laws and some other laws that connects to human logic. And after that, they are righteous Gentiles, and they can go to heaven. They have their own heaven, the Gentiles. So it's much, much easier to be a righteous Gentile than to be a righteous Jew, because a Jew has a lot more to do. But even a non-Jew, when he died and came back to life, he felt horrible embarrassment, shame, that he basically did not achieve one positive thing in his life. So if the non-Jew felt like that, when it comes to us, to the Jews, it's needless to say that the feeling is much harder and much stronger. I will skip a few more. Conclusion of Dr. Elizabeth Kovler-Ross. People who parts of their body were chopped off. They say that when they left the body as a soul, the body was complete again. The image of the soul. If there is no hand, the soul is complete. The body doesn't have hand, but the soul is 100% complete in the image of a human being. One chemist that became blind in an explosion in a lab, he said when he came back to life, he described everything in colors. Right now he's blind. He was dead for a few minutes, and when he woke up, he described everything that happens in a hospital in colors. So we see that the limitation is only in the blind, in the eyes, but the soul has no limitation of seeing anything. But it gets even better. People who were born blind. Up to now, this chemist, he used to see until a certain age, and then one day he became blind, so he remembered colors. He remembered things. But someone who was born blind and never saw anything in his life, no one, thank you. Someone who was born blind, a baby. He never saw colors. Now one day he becomes 40 years old. He had a whatever accident. He died for a few minutes and he comes back to life. Somebody like that, how can he describe things with color if he never saw colors in his entire life? The answer is from previous life, because in this world nobody ever showed him colors. If you take a blind person who were born blind, how many years it will tell you to explain to him the color blue? How many years? Do you think he can do a good job? Tell him, hey, don't get on my nerve. 500 times I tried to explain to you. Blue, it's like the sky. So the blind person would say, what sky? Say, well, it's similar to green. He said, what's green? It's very relaxing. It's like the ocean. He would say, what's ocean? There's no way to explain to him, because he never saw color. He doesn't have it in his imagination. So that's a proof that he's able to know colors now when nobody ever told him colors. You know, the little kids, you tell them yellow, white, black, brown. That's how they learn. But someone who no one ever taught him because there's no way to teach him, if he died and came back to life after a few minutes, how does he know colors? The answer is from his previous life. Now it gets more interesting. Pay attention, please. What happened after we died?
There is. 90% of us say it's not the end. Certainly wasn't for Don. It was pronounced clinically dead.
Do you hear anything or no?
Mr. Piper was even put in a body bag. What happened after that is an amazing tale chronicled in his best.
I'm trying to figure out where is the speaker.
I spoke to Mr. Piper a few years ago. So, Mr. Piper, you're driving down a narrow lane. You see a tractor trailer coming dead at you. Pick it up from there.
Well, I was hit head on, and I had no idea. It was a narrow highway. I had nowhere to go. I'm on a bridge, and he hits me head on with such an impact.
I don't know why it doesn't work. Usually when you put it, you hear it all over.
Let me get this.
Now, when you say you were killed, you said yes. So, I mean, what's the definition of you being killed?
Do you hear anything?
Well, there was a full car on the highway, so the EMTs came out to the bridge from the station to check on everybody. Nobody else was fine except me, so they all focused on me, and they all did.
תרים שם את הווליום. יש שם ווליום.
Concluded the same thing. I was fatality. The body was covered up with a waterproof tarp. It was raining, and they waited for someone to come and take the body away.
All right, you were actually covered in no breathing hole or anything. You're dead.
No.
Now,
No.
so you're, according to these medical people, done. Then what happens in your mind? What's going on in your mind?
Well, immediately I was standing at some magnificent gates surrounded by people I had known and loved in life. So when I saw them, I knew where I was because I knew where they were. I knew I was at the gates of heaven.
Now, when you saw people that you had known who had passed away before you, were they in human form, body form?
In a sense they were. They were all fully recognizable as themselves. So yes, they were tangible. I could see them. And they were all perfect. Many of them I had known in life had died at an elderly age, or maybe they had a traumatic accident themselves. But when I saw them, they were all ageless.
When you say in your book you didn't see God or Jesus or anybody like that?
In the distance, as I was approaching the gate, I've often asked about it. You might imagine there really are a lot of magnificent structures inside the gate. And at the pinnacle of a great hill beyond them is a bright light.
Okay, so let me just conclude this until they fix that, because we have another very interesting video of a little kid who remember his previous life when he's 2 years old, and he's speaking to his father about his previous life. Unbelievable video. Don't leave before you watch this video. It was worth it for you just for that to come. Conclusion of this film, this non-Jew, as you can see, yeah, plug it, give me that.
Climbed in the car, and because he felt like that.
And I'll just put it on. This non-Jew, as you saw, he had a horrible accident, and they already put his body pieces inside a body bag, and he was already dead for a few minutes, and one firefighter started to pray for him, and all of a sudden he came back to life, and he wrote a book, What Happened to His Soul, from the minute he came out of the body until the time that he came back to normal life. And this book was one of the bestsellers describing his life. Now, Dr. Raymond Moody, when I interviewed the people who died and came back to life, I saw that they're shivering and they're very excited when they describe what happened to them while they were dead. There's no way to fake such a thing. Different people from different places, and they all say the same stories, regardless of religion and regardless of their nationality. Dr. Elizabeth Kovler-Ross, conclusion. We know without a doubt, we know, not believe, without any doubt, life continue after the physical death. Those who are willing to listen should listen, and those who close their ears will be very surprised. I know beyond any doubt that there is life after death. Let's see what the Torah had to tell us about. So far, what we spoke about was pure science. Science and medicine. Let's see what the Torah said to us many years ago. The Torah, the Zohar, actually this is a Gemara in Masechet Psachin. The Gemara says that the computer has his moods. All of a sudden everything becomes the opposite. But that's okay, I know it by heart. So the Torah say, one rabbi, Rav Yosef, bno shel Rabbi Yehoshua, chala. He was very ill. And then he died and later came back to life. When he came back to life, his father told him, tell me what you saw up there. So he told him, Dad, everything over there is the opposite of here. Those who are very important in this world are nothing over there. And those who are not important in this world are very important over there. So his father told him, no, this world is the opposite of that world. That world is the world of the truth according to the Torah. And then the boy said one more thing. I heard an announcement when I entered there. Ashrei mi sheba lekan vetalmudo beyado. How lucky are the people who come to this world with Torah knowledge in their hands. This is the announcement that people hear when they penetrate that world. So this is an example from Gemara in Masechet Psachin, how someone died and came back to life. But it gets better. The Gemara says, the Zohar, Rabbi Krospadai, Chashvu Shemet. Everyone was sure he died. And then he woke up and came back to life and started to describe the elevation of his soul to the upper worlds and the trial that he had. He already had a trial in front of Hashem. Now let's see what the Kabbalah is teaching us, what happened to the soul. Remember, all these things I'm reading to you, it's at least 2,000 years old. Way before Dr. Raymond Moody and Dr. Elizabeth Kovler-Ross. Way before their research. This is what the Zohar in Parashat Vayechi says. When the soul exits this world, it goes in a cave. Me'arat HaMachpelah, where Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov is buried. This is the gate to the next world. 3 days after the person died, the soul is still flying above the body, hoping to return back to the body. This is in the Gemara in Masechet Yerushalmi, in Masechet Moed Katan. Then, Kol Shivat Hayamim, all 7 days, the soul is going back and forth between the place where people sit Shiva to the cemetery. Now you understand why in Judaism the custom is when someone died, that everyone sit on the floor for 7 days. Why? Because for 7 days God gives permission to the deceased person to come back and forth from the cemetery. He doesn't leave the world completely. Still have connection to this world for 7 days. 3 days is strong connection, 4 more days less connection, and after 7 days it's gone. Rabbi Dosa said, the Torah in Shmot, Exodus 33, Ki lo irani ha'adam v'chai. Hashem said, a person cannot see me and stay alive. No one can see me in this world. There's nothing harder for the soul more than the separation from the body. And a person cannot die until he see the light of God. Remember what they all reported, that they saw the light? This is 2,000 years ago in a Zohar in Parashat Kedoshim, chapter of Kedoshim, Perek Chet. And this is what it says. It says, and out of desire to the light of God, it goes out to accept that light. And that's actually the time of death. When the time comes for a person to die, to leave this world, the soul comes out of the body and see the light of God immediately. And out of happiness to that spirit of God, it comes out of the body. If he's righteous, he gets connected to the light of God. And if he's not righteous, later the light will disappear and he will cry over and mourn over the separation from the body. This is a Zohar in Parashat Metzorah, chapter of leprosy. At the time of death, a person gets permission to see what he could not see in his eyes, in his life. A person knows why this shidduch did not work for me, why I didn't get married, why I got married, why I was healthy, why I wasn't healthy, why I was rich, why everything I touched became bad. All the answers to all the mysteries when a person dies, everything will be clear. Over here is in a test. That's why, like I said before, we know very little. The world to come is wide. No limitation, no ceiling, no walls, no boundaries. Only huge light that will not be anything like the light in this world. This is 2,000 years ago. Remember, there was no Dr. Raymond Moody, no cardiologist, no billions of dollars hospitals like today, not the equipment that we have today. This is in the Kabbalah. He's telling us things that today we discover in the last 30 years and shocking the whole world. But it gets much better. בשעה שצדיק נפטר, when a righteous person passed away, Hashem said to all the righteous people, go and welcome him to this world. And they all come and say, Avo Shalom, come in peace. This is the Gemara in Masechet Ketubot, page 104. When a person died, he gets permission to see his relatives and friends that already passed away. Remember how they say they saw their relative? And he recognized them in their image as they lived in this physical world. If he's righteous, they are very happy for him because they know he's going to a good fate. If he's not, later they disappeared and he stays alone. This is the Zohar in Parashat Vayechi. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot, page 28, the Gemara says, Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, the president of Israel in the destruction of the second temple, his name was Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He lived 120 years. And moments before he died, he said, prepare a chair to Chizkiyahu, the king of Judah, that is coming to welcome me to the next world. This is very interesting because if you know a little bit history, there was about 600 to 700 years different between the death of King Chizkiyahu, the king of Judah, to the death of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. And King Chizkiyahu, one of the most righteous king in a Jewish history, maybe the biggest out of everyone. So he himself came to welcome this righteous Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who the Gemara say was a student of Hillel HaZaken, one of his 80 students, and he knew the languages of angels, the language... Huh?
Tomorrow's Daf Yomi.
Oh, you understand? So, Daf Yomi tomorrow. So, what are we saying right here now? That it's very, very interesting how people, righteous people from the upper world, come to welcome the righteous people to their place in heaven. But I'll tell you a story. I had a student in yeshiva, and one time he told me how his father passed away. So this is what he said. He said, listen, my father was laying in bed for a few days. And we live like in a second floor. And my father said to me, before he died, maybe an hour before, he said to me, what is Rivka doing here? So I told my father, what Rivka? He said, the neighbor from downstairs. Neighbor from the first floor. So he said, I asked my father, where? Over here. He said, right here. He's pointing to the ceiling. So I said so the guy tells me, I said to my father, relax, relax. You're hallucinating. There's no Rivka over here. But then when he went downstairs, he saw Chevrat Kadisha, everything. When the father saw why Rivka is over here, she actually died a few minutes before that. And he was half out of his body already, and he had an ability to see her soul, which people like us could not see. Now you may ask me, wait a minute, what's going on here? Why the person before he died was able to see his neighbor, and his son, my student, couldn't see? They both in the same room. The answer, the Zohar say, the Kabbalah, if a person would have permission to see what's around him in space for 1 minute, it would drive him so crazy, he will never to be able to function ever again. Why? There's angels, there's spirits, souls of people, demons, all kinds of things that a person cannot see. So the question is, why a person cannot see? We have to understand. Let me explain. When Hashem made the world, He made eyes to people and He made eyes to animals. The eyes of a person and the eyes of the animals do not work in the same frequency, which means you may have a dog and you sit in a quiet night in your couch and the dog is right next to you, and all of a sudden the dog is jumping, or the cat is running to the corner of the room, is looking up, and you see that he's shaking. And you don't understand. You look around, you don't see anything, but the dog is very fearing. So you're wondering what's going on. The answer is the dog can see what you cannot see. But not only the dog can see what we cannot see, soon I'm going to show you spiritual pictures, which mean pictures that people took. Reuven is taking a picture of his friend Shimon. There's no one else in a room. While when they develop the picture, they see people that died, and you see their image in the picture. But he could not see it when he took the picture. But the lens of the camera works in a different frequency. The lens can see what the eyes of a person cannot see. As I'm going to show you in a minute what I'm talking about. Let's move on. When a person passed away, he sees his entire life. And they tell him up there, this is what you did in this day, in this minute. Do you confirm it? And a person say, yes, I confirm. You cannot lie over there. Then he continue and it says like this. When a person times came to pass away from the world, Hashem comes to him, God, and say, I want you to sign on all the things that you did because you're going to pay for what you did. And a person is signing, is writing, confirming and signing for everything that he did. This is Yalkut Shimoni 1800 years ago. That already the Torah told us that what happened to the soul when a person passed away. Conclusion, Da ma lemala mimcha. You should know what's above you. There's an eye who watch you, there's a ear who listens to you, and everything you do is recorded in the book of God. Where is it? The Gemara in Masechet Avot, chapter 2, first Mishnah. The Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page 152. You can go and check. Everyone, I'm sure, has Gemara. Page Kuf Nun Bet. The Gemara say, everything you say in front of a dead person, he knows. Until the body will be covered with the sand. And the Gemara say, and until the body will be eaten completely by all the worms and the snakes and all the things under the ground, which means there is one level that a person is still connected to this world as long as the grave is not covered. He sees everyone who scream, he hears the Kaddish, he sees all the people in a funeral, he's connected to everything around. Once they cover the body, his connection is lower now, but he still has some connection. How long? 11 months. It's actually 1 year, 1 full year. And then after that, that's the reason why we say Kaddish for 12 months, because the Gemara said the trial is 1 year. Nothing in Judaism is coincidence, in case you didn't know it. Everything has a very deep reason. The Gemara say, Amar Rav le Rav Shmuel bar Shilat. Rav say to his Chevruta that used to learn with him, his name is Shmuel bar Shilat. He said, when I die, make sure you make me a great eulogy, hesped. Say all the good things that I said, that I did in my life, to the yeshiva. Why? Because I will stand there above you and I would listen to everything you're going to say. So we see in the Gemara, it was obvious to the Chachamim that when you die, what happened? The soul is above and the soul sees everything. We didn't need Dr. Raymond Moody and Dr. Elizabeth. With all due respect, it's very nice what they discover, but we already know it. It's obvious things for us. But it gets better. Some, as I see, I'm going to skip some of the things, and this is it. There was a doctor, there was a medium, her name is Leonora Pfeiffer and Eileen Gart, 2 mediums. They had ability to communicate with dead people and tell their relatives what happened. Leonora Pfeiffer from Boston. She connected her customers to the relatives who passed away for 40 years. 7 different teams of investigators checked her. From 1885 to 1886, William James, the philosopher and the psychologist from Harvard University, he examined her, followed her from A to Z, one day after the other. And in the end, he reported to London, to the Union of the Spiritual Phenomena, and he told them how she connected him to all his relatives, and they gave him information that she never heard, and she wasn't aware of it. Let's give an example of what it means when you communicate with the spirit of a person. The American medium, Rosemary Brown, she never learned any formal music. She writes very complicated music. The music of Chopin, Brahms, Bach, and Beethoven. How she knows to write the most famous classical music when she never went to school to learn music even one day of her life? The answer, she is receiving the music from the people who wrote the music directly, and she writes it. They move her hands and she writes the musical note. Emma Conti, Italian woman, she wrote music even though she never went to high school, and she won 46 awards for the music, and she said that the spirit come, and the spirit is Emily Dickinson, a very famous songwriter. Emily Dickinson comes to her, she tells her the music, and she writes the music, and she wins all the awards when she herself don't know anything about music. Let me give another example. What does it mean, reincarnation? This is a part from the words of Rabbi Chaim Vital about the Ari Kadosh. This is what it says. Few times I walked with my rabbi in a field, and he used to tell me, here is a man named such and such, he used to be righteous and a Talmid Chacham. He knew a lot of Torah, but he made one big sin in his life, and now his soul is reincarnated in this rock. Let me explain what it means, a soul reincarnated in a rock. The soul can come back in a regular body, like us, with free choice. You can do good, you can do bad, it's your free choice like the Torah says. So we are judged. Why? Because we choose what to do. Sometimes the soul can come back in brain damage, which the person doesn't have free choice. He comes here, he has X amount of years to live here, he finishes tikkun, and he goes to heaven. That's very, very close to a full correction. This is holy souls, what we call Down syndrome, autistic. This is people in very high level. They have very little to correct. They finish their tikkun and they go to heaven. We have much more to correct than them. So they are in a much, much higher level than us. Sometimes a person comes back to this world as a form of a punishment. Once he comes to the world as a form of a punishment, he can be reincarnated in raw material, in animals, and in plants and trees. It's different levels of reincarnations. As I said, I don't have time to explain everything. In my film, you can get more details. But the Ari said to his student, you see this rock? This rabbi is reincarnated on this rock. So first of all, the Ari would never make up a story about a holy rabbi that he made a big sin and is reincarnated in this rock, unless it was 100% true, because even rabbis today won't do such a thing. To ruin his reputation, saying that he's reincarnated in a rock, and it's a lie, God forbid, for someone holy like the Ari HaKadosh, is very unlikely to happen. But that's not what we count on. Now comes the proof. Rabbi Chaim Vital say, after the rabbi used to tell me who is reincarnated where, we used to go to the town where this rabbi used to live and checked all the details. And the Ari didn't know him personally. He's in a different country sometimes. It's in a different city. We went to that place and we started to ask around. There was a butcher named such and such. Yes. What happened? How did he die? When? Exactly like the Ari used to tell. And that's how they found out that he knows things that we do not know. Rabbi Yehuda Aryeh Mimodina, Italian Jewish doctor, a rabbi and a doctor in Italy, in Venice, 500 years ago. What happened? He did not believe in reincarnation. Listen good, this is a holy rabbi. Not only ordinary people sometimes have doubts about reincarnation. It can happen to big rabbis. So he did not believe in it. That's what he writes. Until one day, this is what happened. His neighbor called him because her son, the baby, was dying. And he came to read Tehillim and to say words of Torah when the soul of that baby came out. And then the baby opened up his mouth. He was 6 months old. He never spoke. Baby, 6 months old in a crib. Opened up his eyes and he started to scream, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and his soul came out. And the rabbi writes it in his book. From that day on, I already knew that reincarnation is something solid. Until that day, I did not believe in it. And by the way, it doesn't only happen by Jews. In Portugal, one baby opened up his mouth and screamed, Viva Juan something, I don't remember the full name, and died. And 2 months later, that person that the baby screamed became the king of Portugal. So there's certain things in life we don't know how it's possible, but it's obviously showed there's reincarnations here. Now, this is an amazing story. Indika Gonreta was born in Sri Lanka in 1962. Once he was a kid, he started to describe his previous life. Ian Stevenson, Dr. Ian Stevenson, is a famous parapsychologist, started to investigate the case in 1968, 45 years ago. And he published his conclusion in the newspaper ASPR in 1974, 6 years later. 6 years he investigated the case. This Indika Gonreta is describing his previous life, who he used to be. Listen good. So he say, Indika started to speak when he was 2 years old. A year later, when he was 3, he started to describe himself as a wealthy person from the city of Matara in Sri Lanka. He said that he has a mansion and a Mercedes car and elephants, and he has a servant named Parmadaza that used to be his private chauffeur, driver. The father of Indika, Gonreta, started to check the stories of his 3-year-old kid. And he really found that there was a rich person lived in Matara that described exactly as his son's story. He gave the case to Dr. Stevenson. Stevenson went to that place and made a full investigation, and he found out that this kid used to be selling woods, chopping woods. It was a businessman. His name was K.J. Verizinga. He lived in Matara, and he died in 1960. And then he really had a servant that was still there, with the mansion, with the elephants, with everything. His name, Parmazada, exactly as the little kid described. That I was a rich man living in this mansion, and I had a servant, and the servant is still there in a mansion. And he died 1960 and was born 2 years later, which means even non-Jews come back in Gilgul. He died 1960, Hashem sent his soul back in a new baby's body 2 years later. Where was he for 2 years? The Gemara says, all the souls that waiting for reincarnation, the Gemara says, En ben David ba ad shelo yichlu kol haneshamot min haguf. The Mashiach will not come until all the souls will not finish in a bank of the souls. That there is a name for it. It's called Shamayim Guf. There's a body who holds all the souls of all the people that died and that will come back in reincarnation. Why they have to wait? Because Hashem needs to find the right parents for them, to make a match. For instance, if Hashem wants to send a kid that's supposed to be rich, a kid, why? In his previous life, he was very rich and he did not give enough donation. He did not care for the poor, for the widow, for the Torah. So now Hashem wants to give him another chance. So he must make him rich. So he has to wait for the father and mother to come from a rich environment, that there's also a connection to that soul, to put them together in the right time. Not always it's matching. Sometimes a person can wait 20 years until he comes back in life. And let me give you an example. What does it mean, regression? This is an amazing field coming up. I just hope the volume will be enough. If not, I will repeat some of the words for you. I don't understand what's going on here. Let's try again. Okay, in front of us, until I find it again, there is a story of a kid from Colorado that was 1.5 years old, and his father one day came to change his diapers, and as the father changing the diapers of his baby, the baby said to the father, "It's strange. When I was your age, I used to change your diapers." The father, of course, got the shock of his life, and he runs to the wife to tell her, "Look, how can it be such thing? How can a little baby tells me..." Okay, so they started to investigate, and what did they find? That the baby is actually used to be the father of his father. The grandfather came back as a grandson. So imagine this. Imagine his father passed away, and then a year later he has a baby. And then one day the baby opened up his mouth, and he said, "Hey, you better treat me nice. You know why I became your son? Because I used to be your father, and you didn't respect me. So now Hashem sent me back to teach you a lesson. Everything you did to me, I'm going to do to you." It sounds like a joke. The Ari in Shara Gilgulim explained that many times parents come back as their children, measure for measure. So try to imagine such a thing. Imagine now a person is crying for his father or mother who passed away, and they're upset for a few years. "I didn't get to say goodbye to my father. I didn't get to say goodbye to my mother. They die young. I eat my heart. I'm so upset. In reality, this 2-year-old baby that's crawling on the floor and enjoying life, that's his father. And he feels very bad for his father, and in reality, his father is very happy now. This is what happens when a person has no idea what the Torah is. He doesn't know who God is. He doesn't know what Kabbalah is. And he doesn't know anything. I give you an example what I mean. In Israel, every Memorial Day, they show parents that their sons died in a war, Yom Kippur War or Six-Day War. And all these parents are doing, they get up every morning, they go to the cemetery, and they sit from morning to night next to the grave of their children, 20, 30 years already. Can you believe such a thing? 20 years, they interview the father, and one father there I'll never forget, the father said, I have 2 sons who died. Half a day I sit here, half a day I sit by this grave. 20 years! From morning to night, they all gather, parents, in a cemetery. They all know each other, unfortunately. And they sit and they refuse to accept comfort. Mamash like this. They show them every Memorial Day in Israel on Yom HaZikaron. So I was thinking to myself when I saw it, imagine if they watch my film, These Parents, Life After Death, it would change their entire way of thinking. 20 years of their life, they're burning for nothing. Maybe these soldiers already in heaven. So what are you crying for them? They're in heaven. They're very happy. Your kid is in the best place. You should be happy. Or if they're not in heaven, so they already came back to life. So they're reincarnated somewhere. It could be the richest guy in the air. It can be a big rabbi. It can be your neighbor. It can be your son. It can be somebody else. There's no way to know. People kill themselves sometimes way more than what they need to. And that comes because of ignorance that they don't know all the details. Let's give another chance to see this film, which was checked scientifically. And Bezrat Hashem, this time the volume will be good enough. Oh, it already sounds better.
Yeah, it's good.
I was wondering what's happening here. As you can see, I skipped a lot, but you can see all of it in a film. Here you go.
There are thousands of stories like this, and Dr. Jim Tucker has gathered many of them. We're investigating cases of very young children who spontaneously begin talking about previous lives. They're usually between the ages of 2 and 3 and continue until the age of 5 or 6. We're looking at these cases to learn as much as possible about this phenomenon.
Jim Tucker is preparing a research trip to meet one of his subjects, a child claiming to remember a past life.
Gus Ortega is a little boy in Colorado who has talked about being his grandfather. This began when he was 18 months old, and he's made a number of statements that seem quite specific. This one is a stronger case because the child has made some very specific statements that seem very unlikely he could have heard through normal means.
Gus Ortega's case is only one of many.
We've been studying these cases for the last 40 years. We've now collected over 2,700 cases like this. These cases have been found all over in Asia, in West Africa, they've been found in South America, in Europe, and the United States, pretty much wherever they've been left.
In a place not quite that far away, a hospital in America. An old man is dying. And a young boy believes he is this man reborn. Gus Ortega is a normal 6-year-old. Like most boys, he cherishes his time with his dad. But this relationship is different. Gus remembers that he played with his dad in a previous life. Only then, he was the father.
and his dad was his son. This is the case that UVA scientist Jim Tucker is investigating.
Whenever I go to see a case, I go with a certain amount of skepticism. I never go with the assumption that this is reincarnation. And that's also the same approach that I have with the work as a whole. We're here because this is a phenomenon that we're trying to know as much about.
Grandpa Arden died in 1993. His son Ron found him lying on the floor of his home. A stroke. Grandpa Arden died 5 hours later. He was a shopkeeper. He sold everything people wanted to buy, and he loved his family. But he never met his grandson, Gus. Gus was born 1 year after Grandpa Arden's death. One day, when he was just a year and a half, Gus was alone in his room with his father.
Ron came out and told me that he just finished changing Augie's diaper, and that he looked right up at him and said, "You know, Dad, when I was your age, I used to change your diaper."
I was flabbergasted, to be honest with you. I thought it was just kind of strange, especially the choice of words to say that phrase, "when I was your age," for this little 1.5-year-old toddler.
He started talking about Grandpa. And, you know, just the little things he was saying that we knew we couldn't have known because he never met Grandpa. His grandfather died a year before he was born. So, yeah, we were very puzzled about it.
Then one day, Ronald Taylor brought a set of old photos home, and something even more remarkable occurred.
And I said, "Oh, look at this old photograph." And he came up to him, he goes, "Oh, there's me." I mean, I was like, just totally astounded, you know. It just stopped me, you know, cold. I mean, because how would he know me?
Gus would make more statements like that over the course of the next years. He would recollect episodes of his grandfather's life that even Ron could hardly remember. And he was there. Gus knew more about his grandfather than he should have. Is this evidence of reincarnation? How else can these children remember another life? The case files of Dr. Jim Tucker will yield more clues.
As you can see, it's not only one case here. There's 2,700 cases by these scientists of children who report who they used to be in their previous life. Since time is running out, I'll tell you 2 more stories and I'll show you the pictures, and then maybe we'll give some time for questions. But until we do it, let me explain to you about this story. Shanti was born in Delhi, in India, 1926. When she was 3, she started to describe the city of Mathura. She claimed that her husband, Kaider Nath, and she died in the 10th day after she gave birth to her son. When Shanti became 9 years old, she started to live and describe their previous life non-stop. Clearly, the parents sent a messenger to the city of Mathura, and they found that the husband, Kaider Nath, is still alive. They wrote him a letter, and they told him of the daughter and what she's describing. Kaider was very impressed, and one day decided to surprise them and showed up. When he arrived to Delhi, they opened the door, and she recognized him immediately, the girl. And she knew to answer all his questions about how she used to be his wife in her previous life. She knew all the food that she used to make for him, and she asked him, "Why did you get remarried? Didn't we agree that you won't marry another woman forever?" Kaider admitted that there was such an agreement between him and his first wife before she died. After Kaider arrived, 3 ministers went with Shanti to Mathura to follow her behaving. When they arrived to the train station, they tried to trick her, but she ignored them. She recognized Gita, her brother-in-law, in the audience. They rented a carriage, and she gave direction to the driver how to reach the house. She found the house, even though after she died, the house was renovated and painted in different colors. Inside the house, she recognized her father-in-law from her previous life, her son. She knew to describe every furniture in every room before they opened the door. And when they arrived to one of the rooms, she stopped and she said, I hid money here under the floor. Dig. They started to dig and they didn't find anything. Then she looked at her husband, Kaider, and she said, where is the money? And Kaider, he was embarrassed to admit that after she died, he took the money from under the ground there. So this is an example of a girl who described her previous life. She went to the house where she used to live, and she knows everything over there. There's many, many cases like this. I'm forced to skip a lot of them. You know, this is another case of Dr. McDougall. He was a psychologist from Harvard University in the beginning of the 20th century. He was a specialist in hypnosis. And as he was doing a research in Oxford and hypnotizing a man in the middle of the hypnosis, the man said that he's an Egyptian carpenter. And he's making a special eagle on a board of wood for who? For Pharaoh. And later, they found that the archaeologists found, a British archaeologist named Sir Patrick, that worked with the Egyptian company for archaeology. He found a memorial for unknown king of the pharaohs, all right? And he found exactly the eagle that this guy described that he made. We're talking 3,400 years ago. So in the middle of hypnosis, he described how he makes an eagle to put on the grave of one of the pharaoh. And short time after that, the archaeologists found that eagle exactly as he described it from A to Z. I'm going to show you now some pictures that were taken by cameras. Most of these pictures were checked by a laboratory. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them were taken before they invented Photoshop. Before, many years ago. And those pictures are showing us that the camera can detect things that our eyes cannot see. Let's see some of them. This is a picture we're taking in Auschwitz, 1992, which is 22 years ago. As you all know, there was no Photoshop yet. And this is right here. If you look at that, someone took a picture of the bathroom in Auschwitz. And when they developed the picture, they saw an image of a boy or a girl. It looks more like a boy. 2 eyes right here, nose, mouth. This is the entire head right here. Obviously, in my computer, since it's a small picture, you can see it very, 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 very clear. When I was in Miami, about 2 months ago, I gave a lecture in one of the places. By the end of the lecture, the owner of the place opened up his computer and showed a picture that he took of him and his son in the minivan. And then when they showed the picture, I had 20 witnesses around us. Everyone almost fainted. His aunt, an old woman who passed away 8 years ago, was in the car. The camera took her entire face, but so clear that you would never know that she wasn't in a car. It doesn't look like here. Over here, it looks like an image. Over there, it looks like she was sitting inside the car. Every wrinkle of her face, it was clear to see. Every wrinkle, the eyes, the eyelash, everything. And he said, look at this picture. Me and my son alone in a car. She died 8 years ago. And everyone over there was like, oh, I'm telling you, almost people fainted. An incredible picture. The camera saw, and he couldn't see it while he was inside the car. Let me give you more examples. This is another picture As you can see, we enlarge it right here. This is a group of pilots. One pilot got killed. A propeller of the airplane hit his head and killed him instantly. Few days later, they took a picture, all the pilots, and right there in the last line, all the way in the top, circle with a green circle, we made it bigger. The pilot that died, his spirit joined the picture. Inside the picture, they saw the friend that was already dead for a few days. This is another example, 1995, a building in the United States was burned. A photographer named Tony Orhill, he came and started to take picture of the big fire, and when they developed the picture, they found a girl. Inside the fire, there's a girl. They went and asked around in the area if anyone recognized the girl, and they identify her as a girl that died in 1977, 18 years earlier. She died. How she died? She was burning buildings in the area, and one day she disappeared and no one ever found her. So now when they saw fire over there, they saw inside the fire her image. This is a picture of a regular family right here. As you can see by the picture, there is a boy that wasn't there when they took the picture. He wasn't there, and all of a sudden he appears inside the picture. This is a picture from the 19th century, about 120 years ago. First, you can pay attention how modest the Goyim used to dress. So already you can see how down we went. All right? This is non-Jews, family of non-Jews. So if they are so modest, more than some of the Rebbitzins today. Look at the women, how they all cover from head to toe, everything, without complaining about the law of modesty. But when they developed the picture on the siding of the house, few images, but one of them is the granddaughter of the family that died 6 years old. And she died 2 months before the picture was taken. And when they took the picture, all of a sudden they see the little girl inside the picture. The camera detected it. This is a picture. Tracy was born in June 13, 1975. Friday the 13th, like they say. And what happened? This picture was taken in 1979. And when they developed the picture, you see all kinds of images around her. Nobody knows who they are, but you can see spiritual images. This is the first picture, digital. Different kinds of camera, digital camera. It was taken by the mother of this girl, May 5th, 2001, with digital camera. But when the mother took a picture of her cute baby, look who's behind. Another girl, right there, half a face. Half a face of a spirit of another girl came into the picture. This is another picture, and there's a man standing right there in a house. She didn't know there's somebody there. The camera detected it. This is pictures that people took in cemeteries. Look at all these images in the air. Some of them do not make that much sense. Some of them look more like faces. But this is spiritual pictures. Obviously, all these things that you can see, when they took the picture, nobody saw it. Only when they developed the picture, they were able to see it. Here is another example of a girl in an amusement park, and somebody sitting right next to her, but she obviously doesn't have any idea that there is spirit right next to her. Now, this picture, some people told me that there's a question about it. So everything else now, until now, was tested and verified. This one, there's two opinions. Maybe it's true, maybe it's fake. When they filmed that film, Three Men and a Baby with Ted Danson, when they filmed it, they brought it to the editor, and the editor looked at the film and he said, "What's going on here? This boy over there in another room wasn't supposed to be in a film. Who is this boy?" And they said, "There was no boy. What are you talking about?" And when they saw the video, they see the boy, and the person who was shooting the film said, "Oh, there's no boy when we film it." They went to the owner of the apartment. They rented the apartment from someone, and he said that this is his boy who committed suicide with his gun in that apartment. So someone wrote me an email that this was scam. It wasn't real. Maybe it's real, maybe it's not. If this is not real, all the other ones are, so we shouldn't get too overexcited. This is a picture in a botanic garden in Portugal. Someone is there in space. This is a picture of a mother and a baby. Look what's happening out of the window. All these images that wasn't there when they took the picture. This is a picture of a baby in a car seat. Look behind. The grandma came to visit. Okay, we're done. One more comment before we finish. One more comment. I was asked to add one more explanation about soulmates. And it relates to this lecture. When a baby is born, the Gemara say, they announce already who's going to be his husband or wife. But let's clarify what it means. On the other hand, in the Gemara in the same page say that a person gets his soulmate according to who he is. If you're righteous, you get a modest, righteous girl. If you're wicked, you're going to get a girl that is not modest, and she's going to give you a lot of hard times. Match is according to who you are. On the other hand, it was pre-decided. It was announced. So which one of the two is true? It's two opposites. It looks like a clear contradiction. The answer, no contradiction. First time when Hashem created the world, when the soul of Adam started to split, all the souls were brand new. There's no time to sin yet. It's a brand new product. It's no reincarnations. So how does Hashem take souls and make them husband and wife? It was already announced, because everyone is equal. Begilgul Rishon, the Gemara say, Bezivug Rishon, when it was the first time, Hashem puts all of them together. After one life, people do not die in the same level. No one is in the same level. One person can die 79.5. That's his mark for life. His friend can die 82.3. It's very close, but it's different. Every transaction that a person does already changes his spiritual status. You put another dollar in a tzedakah box, it's already made your situation a little bit higher. Every word, every Torah learning, every donation, every day with modesty, whatever you did in your life automatically affect your status, for good and for bad, depending on what you do. So when the people die, when they come back in reincarnation, why God sends the souls back? Why? Just to give them another 7 years to eat and to drink and to sleep? That's why He put us here? Of course not. He gives us an X amount of years to correct what we fail in. If we died angry, we are born angry. If we died generous, we also born generous. If we die stingy, we born stingy. Which means, whatever we corrected in our previous life, we don't have desire for. If a person was when he was in his previous life, he wasn't giving donation, but he worked on himself more and more and more, and after 30, 40 years of hard work, he became a generous Baal Tzedakah, and he gives a lot of tzedakah, and he died. If he died, but he wasn't a modest person, he didn't live modest lifestyle, now he has one thing that he passed. Which test he passed? Generosity. He gives a lot of tzedakah. So he's born as a baby, the baby is very generous. He doesn't have desire to be stingy. Whatever you give him, he gives to the kids. He's generous. He doesn't know how to be stingy, because when Hashem sent the soul back into the world, whatever you already cleared out of your problems, it's cleared. However, since you are not a modest person, you're born with the same desire to make sins when it comes to modesty. If you died modest, you don't have desire to show your body and to make all kinds of crimes, because you fixed it. So now, if a person wants to know, and this is a very common question, how do I know what's my correction in life? How do I know what's my purpose? The answer is, what's the most difficult for you to do? That's the main reason why you came back to this world. If the hardest thing for you to do is not to lie, and you have problems with lies and faking and imitating and all these things, This is what you have to put all your efforts in. Why? Because this is your main correction in life. If your problems is women and modesty and all these things, this is what you have to put all your efforts on. If you have difficulty keeping Shabbat, some people, it's very easy for them. They hear about Shabbat, like Shabbat, they already shomer Shabbat. Some people, such struggle, out of nowhere, they make it so difficult. Why? They died Mechalelei Shabbat. He died Mechalel Shabbat, Hashem gave him another chance to correct. That's why he has the same difficulty like he had. Hashem doesn't do the job for us. We must correct ourselves. And in the end, after X amount of reincarnations, there's no more chances. Don't expect that we're going to come here forever and ever and ever. There's X amount of reincarnation. At one point, the chances are over. What happened at that point, I don't want to say. If you're brave enough, go into my website, you'll find I have some strict lectures explaining what happened to the soul of the people who did not listen to Hashem.
What's the title?
Huh? It's 2,000 lectures over there. Don't expect me to start. There's few good ones. There's reward and punishment. It's all, you're going to see by the titles, you're going to know. But one thing for sure is, you should know one thing. A person that gets married, it's two souls that Hashem puts together, which means it's two halves. And when Hashem puts the husband and wife together, one thing He does expect from both of them. What? If they'll be nice to the whole world and not to each other, all the kindness that they do out there will count zero. You should remember this. If a person is nice to the whole world, but abuses his wife verbally, physically, and all these problems that we find today, then he failed in his test. Because helping not important people on the blood of the people of your family, it's not a mitzvah. And when it comes to tzedakah, to charity, God say, not every charity is mitzvah. Some charity is a very big sin. If you give charity to a place of idol worshipping, every sin that they do that makes God very angry, it counts like you did. Because they're doing it thanks to your money. So you're going to pay for all the sins separately. If you build good yeshiva or good nice shul like here, and there's activity and great learning of Torah, and they bring outside speaker, and they revive the place all the time, every transaction that happens over here goes to your account. Even if you're not here, can be already in Olam Haba, in heaven. Whatever happened here, every Rosh Hashanah Hashem calculate and elevate your soul higher and higher and higher. Same thing, these CDs. They already saved so many thousands of lives and people became Shomrei Mitzvot. You give a person $1, 30 hours of lectures. Most likely he would change because he hears so many things that he never knew. 1 time, 3 times, 4 times, he becomes Shomer Shabbat. It's your mitzvah. Every Shabbat he keeps goes to your account. Every time he puts tefillin, goes to your account. Every time he gives tzedakah, goes to your account. So this is the way it is. It's a profit for eternity. Conclusion. And then I give you time for questions now. Conclusion. Shidduchim, it's not a joke. It's very important. People today have little arguments, disagreement, right away, Rabbi, divorce. It's not a joke. Most people who got divorced became 10 times more miserable than the time they were married, and I'm telling you from 20 years experience. Usually, even though every rule has an exception to the rule, usually all the divorce cases, both sides suffer after the divorce a lot more than before. The man suffer because he was complaining about the headache that he had. He's going to have the same headache. Still have to raise the children, still have to give money, still have to have problems. These problems do not go away. And the woman who thought, oh, my life is going to be a paradise without him, 2-3 months later, it's not so simple. So before people run to destroyed families, sometimes it can be worked out in a day. And I had cases like this that they were scheduled for tomorrow morning, forget. 1 hour conversation changed the entire situation in a life for good. Most problems in a house, it's ego. People do not want to work on their corrupted character. They don't want to correct their personality, their bad traits. It's ego, it's pride, it's jealousy, it's anger, it's lack of patience, it's laziness. If you correct yourself, all the problems automatically are going away. You don't want to correct yourself, so you blame the whole world. Focus on yourself 1 month, fix what you do wrong, and you see that all your problems, one by one, disappear. I'm telling you from experience. I'm saying it to the men, and I'm saying it to the woman. Over there in the lectures that I brought you, there are some good lectures about Shlom Bayit. Peace in the family, raising children, any topic that can be productive to you, right there on the table. Take advantage. Question, please.
I have 2 questions.
Yes.
One is the Isser of the prohibition to not communicate with the dead. What about people who make a deal before the person passes on, like Vilna Gaon's mother?
Yes, if the dead person come on his own, there's no sin. The problem is to call them. Like Shaul HaMelech called the soul of Shmuel the prophet. And Shmuel told him, Lama irgastani la'aloteni? Why you disturb me to bring me back? But sometimes there is a case, for instance, husband and wife, they decided when some of them would die first, if they have permission, they would come to each other and give a key word, a password, that there's life after death. What was it? Blue butterfly. That's what they agree. They say, Parpar Kachol, 2 Israeli people. One day, a bunch of Israeli soldiers, they made a seance. They took the glass, they took a board with all the alphabet, candles, and they called the soul of somebody. Instead of that somebody, a man came. They didn't know who this man is. The man said, do me a big favor. Call this telephone number and tell my wife, Parpar Kachol, blue butterfly. That's it. And the soul disappeared. They took the number, they called up that woman. The woman picked up the phone, and they said to her, we just have information to give you. We're sitting in an Israeli base, military base. We called our friend that died from the army, and instead someone came, and he said to call you and to say, Parpar Kachol. The woman started to scream, and she fainted for a few minutes, and then later on they called again, and she said, that was my husband. Before he died, we made an agreement. If there will be permission, we'll come to each other and give this word, Parpar Kachol, that means there's life after death. There's no sin here. Obviously, if Hashem didn't want to give permission to the soul, he couldn't come. So if the soul come on its own, it's no sin. The problem, the Torah says, not to call the souls. By the way, everything we demonstrated here was done by non-Jews. We couldn't call souls, we couldn't do these things. But what the non-Jews do, we learn from what they do. And it's exactly like the Torah says. What's the second question?
What does a eulogy do for a person who died? Because
the Gemara teaching us that the eulogy relaxes the person very much because he's in a very high tense, he's very nervous, it's not so simple to die. You see your body on the floor, you see the children, you see people, you're panicking, you didn't tell them where you hide all the money, you didn't finish the will, there's so much panicking. And plus, now a person go in front of Hashem for a trial. So believe me, it's not such a simple feeling. So the eulogy calms him down when they say all the great things that he did and all that. So that, obviously the eulogy cannot save a person, but it relaxes him. So it's an act of chesed. Yes?
So I understand that doing chesed and all that is good, but when we finish and achieve what we do in life, don't we go to Allah? So then, if we go to Allah, didn't you say that we didn't want our soul doesn't want our body to leave?
Yes, good question. You should know one thing. There's nothing that the soul suffer more than to leave the body, and there is nothing that the soul suffer more than to come to this world. Very interesting. When a person dies, the last thing he wants is to separate from the body. When Hashem sent the soul into this world, also the Torah teaching us that the person, there's nothing he wants worse than to come to this world. It's the worst thing. But once he's here, he doesn't want to leave this world. That reminds me of me when I was in the army. When I joined the army, I was 1 month depressed. wow, moving from freedom into such system, and you're really nothing. You're just a number, and they're torturing you, run, this, that, you're in the mud, you have no shower, you come from a spoiled life into such system, and it's a big shock. And then you wear someone's uniform, you know, and you sleep in blankets from the day of Antiochus. If you eat it, 5 soldiers choked to death. If you eat the blanket, so much dust. You should see it's army. So when you join the army, it's total depression. 3 years later, when you're about to leave the army, you don't want to leave. By me, they made a mistake. They kept me in the army 10 more days, and I did not report. Think about it. 10 more days I did. 3 years and 10 days. And I did not report. Why? I felt so great with the friends. I didn't want to leave. This is the way the soul is. The soul doesn't want to join this world, and also does not want to leave this world. This is it. That's how people are. Yes?
2 questions also. When a Jewish person dies, always come back as a Jewish person?
Most likely that's the rule, but there's an exception to the rule. A Jew can come, in a very rare cases, as a non-Jew, and a non-Jew can come back as a Jew, but it's very, very rare. The Ari HaKadosh says, maybe it's better not to say, but he said there are some cases, and it describes them, when a Jew can come back as a non-Jew. It describes it. You understand? So, it's possible, but we go by the rule. The rule is a Jew comes as a Jew, and a non-Jew comes as a non-Jew. That's the rule. Yes?
What happened to those people that converted to the Judaism? What happens to the neshama? They get a new neshama?
Yes, in the time of conversion, another neshama merged into them. Ibur neshama they have. Ibur, the same soul as a goy stay, but another soul merged into their system. They go inside Chris, come up Yosef.
Is it like Gilgul goes to them, another neshama?
No, Ibur neshama. It's not a neshama of a regular Jew. It's Ibur neshama. It's like the chelek Eloah mimal that they didn't have because they did not stand in Har Sinai. They get it. This nitzot. There's nitzot. Yes, a spark. Yeah.
Rabbi, according to Torah, when God asked Moshe Rabbeinu to come for the end of his life, he asks to move to the promised land. And God says no.
Yes.
Then again, he says, I want to see. And God says, come up here, I will show you. According to what you say, that there is a reincarnation, a Jew to a Jew, so basically, as soon as Moshe Rabbeinu died, his soul will be moving in.
Not always. The righteous people don't come back in reincarnation. Moshe doesn't need to come back. Moshe used to be Hevel, and Yitro used to be Cain. Cain killed Hevel, and Cain came back as Yitro, and Hevel came back as Moshe. Cain killed Hevel because of Hevel had 2 twins and Cain had 1 because of a girl, and Cain had to make it up to Hevel by giving him a girl. That's why Yitro gave Tzipora to Moshe to correct for why he killed him in the previous life. But after that, Moshe did not have to come back again. He's finished. Moshe went express directly to the highest level in heaven. The big tzaddikim don't have to come back in Gilgul. Sometimes only a part of the soul comes back. It's very hard to understand. Some part of the soul stay in heaven, and another part of the soul come back in a body to correct.
Okay, but even in that case, the soul comes out of the body and can travel anywhere. So basically...
The soul can only... No, if the soul travel, it's a very bad sign. If the soul is in space, it's the worst place. It's even worse than Gehenom. It's called Ve'et Nefesh Arasha Ikla'ena Bekaf HaKela. And the souls of the very extra wicked people, they are locked in space. And I don't want to tell you all the details, not to ruin this beautiful evening here, but it's very bad sign. If we find pictures of people in space, it's not a good sign. A person should be either go to heaven or go to Gehenom, which over there the soul gets cleaned, and then he goes after that to heaven, or he comes back in reincarnation like us, another chance, or God forbid he comes back in reincarnation in raw material, or in animals, or in plants, etc., or he comes back as a Down syndrome, autistic kids, etc., and the worst possibility is he goes to Kafakela. Kafakela, it's different than other things. Why? All the other punishments that a person get pure the soul. It purifies the soul. Kafakela does not elevate the soul at all. It's pure suffering, nothing else. It doesn't elevate the soul. After Kafakela finished, then they send the person to where he needs to be cleansed from his sins. But Kafakela doesn't help him in any way. That's why it's not a good sign. Moshe did not go, not here and not there and not here. Moshe, Baruch Hashem, finished in one lifetime is tikkun. Rabbi Akiva, Hashem sent him back for 40 years, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato. That's what we believe. That the 40 years that Rabbi Akiva missed in his life, he wanted to complete it. Because he became Baal Teshuvah when he was 40. And then 80 years he was big tzaddik. So he came back as the Ramchal who died 39. And he wrote more than 100 books. We only have few of them. The rest are gone. He wasn't a regular person. In a very young age, when he was 18 years old, an angel already came to him and spoke to him. It wasn't just another person. The Rabbi Moshe Chaim Lutzato was a legend. But this is a matter of emunah. You want to believe it, fine. It's the Torah. It's not in the 10 Commandments. What's important is that if you watch my film over there, Torah and Science, you know that Hashem gave us the Torah, and the purpose of life is to be righteous. ראה אנוכי נותן לפניכם היום את החיים ואת הטוב, את המוות ואת הרע, ובחרת בחיים. I'm giving you the life and the good, the death and the bad, and you should choose the good, the life. Don't choose the bad. You can choose the bad. I'm not telling you what to choose. But if you choose the bad, there will be a price to pay. And if you choose the good, I have a price to pay. You understand the difference? When we choose the bad, we have to pay the price. When we choose the good, Hashem has to pay the price. Yes?
I have this question for someone. So why don't they teach, a lot of religious people don't believe in the afterlife. And so my question is, why don't they teach about, the rabbis teach about the afterlife? I mean, wouldn't people...
The word religious people is a very tricky word. From my experience, I tell you that at least 20 years dealing with the public all over the world, at least half of the people who present themselves as religious people are far from religion all the way from here to Honolulu. That's how far they are from religion. Some of them not only are far from religion, they are more wicked than any secular Jew that you can imagine. And they claim they're religious. Why? They fight against rabbis. They spread Lashon Hara on Facebook against rabbis who gives their life to save soul. They make up stories, they make Lashon Hara, and then they call themselves religious. What religious? This is a massive murderer. He can call himself religious. And plus a person who comes and tells you he doesn't believe in oral Torah. How can he call himself religious? All religion is oral Torah. So by him telling you, I don't believe in a Gemara, or I don't believe that what the Chachamim say it's from Moshe Rabbeinu, from the Torah, how can he declare that he's religious? Or a woman that cuffed three quarters of her body is constantly naked on the street everywhere she goes, and she claimed that she's very religious. How can she call herself religious? She violated the most important rule of a woman. Woman supposed to be modest. This is 60% of the life of the woman is modesty. A woman is already modest and she keeps Shabbat. 90% of her life is in her pocket already. It's almost a done deal. Everything else she's going to do 10%. Modesty and Shabbat, she's already in a very, very high level. If she doesn't do those two, she does a lot of other nice things, she's going to left with 10%. Modesty and Shabbat is almost everything for women. By men, you also have tefillin, tefillot, limud Torah. It's the most important thing for a man. Many other things by a man. But a woman, two major things. So if a woman doesn't have those two, how can she call herself religious? She's violating right there 90% of her mission. The word religious, it's a very tricky word. You understand? Some men who marry men with men, they also claim they're religious. Yes, husband and wife, there's two husbands. And they say, we're very religious. What is the word religious? That they believe there is a God? Every Arab believes there is a God. Most Christians believe there's God. Many other Goyim believes there's God. So just because a person believes there's a creator to the world, that makes him religious? No. Religion means to keep all the mitzvot. We all make mistakes. We all make sins. No one is an angel. But our goal is to keep everything. No questions asked. You understand? This is called religious. Religious make mistakes. Religious make sins. But the question is he coming to do his best to do the right thing? Then you can call him religious. If he does whatever he feels like, I'm very scared for him that he cannot call himself religious yet.
Okay, so then I understand that part. So on top of saying prayers, why don't rabbis teach students?
In Israel, almost every rabbi teach it. The Israeli people, they can tolerate it. The Bukharian people, they tolerate it. The American people, they do not tolerate strict knowledge. You have to be very soft with them, like in kindergarten. People wants to kill me just because I mentioned the word punishment, which half of the Torah is about it. Just by saying the word punishment, they want to execute me. Or if I say the word reincarnation, which is proven 1,000,000 times scientifically to everybody, they want to modify the Torah to justify the evil lifestyle. So they don't want to change. They want to change the Torah that they'll be able to continue to do whatever they want. That's not the right way. You understand? I spoke about mixed marriages, mixed dancing. They get angry. Like I wrote the Torah. I did not write the Torah. The Torah says Hashem not allowed men and women to mingle and to dance together in one territory. It's not modest. You don't want to listen to Hashem, fine. I'm not your boss. But why to change now the Torah, that the Torah will match the way of the people? No. A person, you know, I admire people that do not listen to the Torah, but they come and say, I know the Torah is the truth, and right now I'm not keeping the Torah. Be'ezrat Hashem, one day I will. Somebody like that, I can live with. Okay, we're not angels. At least he comes and says, this is the truth, and that's where I am. I'm far away from the truth. But I cannot stand people who come and say, who said you're not allowed to walk naked on the street? Where does it say it? Who say you're not allowed to kill? Who say you're not allowed to steal? Everything that they do, you tell them you're not allowed to do. Show me. Prove to me. What do you mean? It's like they know very well, but they just keep. So they begin the arguments, and the arguments will never end because it's all excuses. More questions? Yes.
Somebody born and then until he's 40 years old, he does all bad things, and all of a sudden he does the Teshuvah. When he passed on, he's going to be
If a person made real Teshuvah, then it's count like all his sins were not done. So that's Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva was very bad until age 40. The way he described himself, that he went against the rabbi, he didn't know alphabet. And then he became the biggest Jew in history. Someone who does Teshuvah for real, and all the sins that he did, slowly after a few years, are all gone. And they get out of his account. That's why a woman that were not modest, now she's modest, she regret, she doesn't repeat the same sin. Very good, she's on the right track. She didn't keep Shabbat, now she does. Very good. She didn't pray, now she pray. Very good. She used to steal, now she stopped. Very good. She used to speak Lashon Hara, now she stopped. Very good. She's fixing. It's not happening overnight. It's a process. Even if a person died before he completed his Teshuvah, he did 50% and he died, then it's completely different than someone who did not do it all. Why? Because at least he was on the right train. So Hashem judged him completely different. There's nothing to compare. More questions right there in the end.
Okay, so about the Gilgulim, just
yes.
to ask for confirmation for something. Okay?
Yes.
So you mentioned that the Pope Benedict he converted to Judaism or he resigned from the Vatican because of Judaism, is that the Gilgul of Yitro? Is it possible?
Who?
Pope Benedict. Okay?
First of all, I didn't say converted to Judaism. I say Rav Ades said that he sends in his book, and he wrote him a letter that thanks to his book, he is reading in his book for 2 weeks, and the book is fascinating. And then after that, Rav Ades said that 2 weeks later, he resigned from the church. I didn't say converted to Judaism. Maybe he did, under the ground. I don't know. To know his Gilgulim, I don't know. It need to be the Ari. The last one I know that used to know the people's Gilgulim by looking at their face was the Ari HaKadosh 500 years ago. So I definitely do not know. In case you think I know, I don't. Yeah.
And then, based on the Ari, there is a video about Gog and Magog. They say that Obama is Gilgul of Paro.
All these videos who come today,
When they show the face with the statue,
I tell you, these all very nice gimmicks, but it's gimmicks. I like to talk about proofs, things that there's no way to argue. Yeah, Obama, Paro, it sounds very nice. It may even be true, I don't know. But I'm just saying to you that I like to talk about something that can be proven, not just a theory on the tree. Yes, over there.
Yes, some people have perception. I'm going to be wicked for 80, 90 years of my life, right? Like when they get old, they become religious, they do Teshuvah, and then do they deserve to have the same olam as somebody's been like religious or did Baal Teshuvah when he was young?
No. There's nothing to compare. Someone who became Baal Teshuvah when he's 20 and someone who became Teshuvah when he's 70, they're not going to have the same olam haba. For very simple reason. Why? Even if Hashem forgive all the sin of the 70 years old person completely, he wiped out all his sins. But there is not that much to pay him because he did not do a lot of good. He just started 2-3 years and he died. How much good he did?
what does it mean?
Someone who became 20 years, 20... Rega, I'll explain to you what it means. I'll explain. Someone was 20, now he has 50 years of good things. So Hashem owes him a lot. So there's nothing to compare. Now what does it mean? יש אדם קונה עולמו ברגע אחד. A person can buy his עולם הבא in one moment. I give you an example. If a person did all his life nothing, and then he's 75 years old, and he's about to die in 5 minutes, and he take a piece of paper with his lawyer, and he say, I have $100 million in my bank account. I want to give it to this rabbi, that it will be for all his yeshiva, and to make Jews that are not religious. Here, take the money and use it only for good after I die. What happened right now? That person actually took the last 50 years of his life, which was all nonsense and waste of time, and made it all holy. Why? Because retroactive, all the 50 years that he saved $100 million, in the end, instead of leaving it for his children to make sins with that, he took it and he said to the rabbi, take all the money, make another 2,000-3,000 Jews Shomer Shabbat, here is for the yeshiva, bring another 50 people to learn Torah all day with my money, help the widow, help the poor, help the shul. So many good things now going to happen from his money. So in 1 minute, he actually fixed his whole life. Doesn't mean he's not going to get punished for the sin he did. If he murdered, he has to pay. If he did other things, if he insulted people, still have to pay. But at least now, you cannot judge him like before. Before, he had billions of problems. Now, all of a sudden, he comes to Shamayim, the angel comes in front of Hashem and says, wait. How you want to punish such a guy? He gave his whole life to the rabbi in the end, to the yeshiva. Everything he made in his life, in 1 minute he gave for the Torah. Cannot judge him like Rasha. It's a big difference. That's what it means. יש אדם קונה עולמו ברגע אחד. Yes.
All you say makes really a lot of sense, but I'm still a little confused about a few questions. We have debate in here with different rabbis. So the first question that I have is not related. Is when you say the soul doesn't have a shape or we can't see him, right?
It has a spiritual image. Spiritual like the person, like the way a person looks.
Okay. Now, in that picture, we saw the one that you mentioned, it could be fake. It had a clothes on. Could it have a clothes on?
Yes. All the people that died, and they saw their relatives, one of them said that the person that he saw still had the blood from the accident on his shirt. But there's no really shirt. It's just like an image. Try to close your eyes and imagine an image. This image is not real. Now, when a person died and he saw an image of a soul, he sees the image of the soul exactly like the Day of the Dead. But if you try to touch it, there's no physics. It's not a real image. It's just a spiritual image.
So it could
be. I agree, it's strange. I was surprised myself when I read, but it's not one or two people. Jews, non-Jews, all over the world, they repeat that they saw people exactly blonde hair, black hair, blue eyes. They see colors, everything.
The other question that I have, when Mashiach comes, and they say dead people rising. So the question comes in here, and we have a debate on it. The body doesn't have any meaning, so it's the soul. Does the body get out of the grave, come in, answer, or is the soul that answers?
It says, first of all, soul to live in this earth must have a body. Soul cannot live in this world without a body. The only way the soul can express itself is through a body. The soul wants to talk, it needs vocals. The soul wants to hear, it listens through the ears. The soul needs this world. Now the difference is that right now when we live here, it's better to be in heaven than to be here. But after Mashiach comes, and it will be the resurrection of the dead, it will be better to be here than in heaven. What's the difference? Because we will go back to the level of Adam before he sinned. When Hashem made Adam, before he made the sin, it was a whole different league. After the sin, everything turned around. Now he has to work, he has to worry, he has to make money, it's very difficult, lots of problems. But before the sin, there was nothing to do. Life here would be heaven. After the sin, Hashem punished Adam and we suffer because of that sin. But after the resurrection of the dead, all the righteous people that are in heaven will come back in their body. Which body? Sometimes they were in few different bodies.
Right.
The most righteous body. The body that gave less problems to the soul will merit to get up. And once the body gets up, as the Torah says not everyone will rise. The Torah says, "Ve'rabim miyeshenei afar yakitzu." Many of the dead people would rise, but not all, Chazal say. Many, but not all. Some people would not rise. So the people who would not rise, they lost. That's it. But the people who rise will come back to this world for how long? For 1,000 years. And then after that, there will be the final step of life of eternity. That's what we call Olam HaNeshamot. The final step. That Hashem will take the soul again out of the body. It will finish this world completely. And will put the souls in eternal spiritual life, which is the highest pleasure that a person can imagine. Nothing will be compared to this pleasure of the soul, not for millions of years or for billions of years, for endless time. It pays to be righteous, and it doesn't pay to be wicked. Yes. Rega, let's give somebody who didn't speak. Yes, you.
When we have a dream from our grandfather that passed away.
Yes.
Are they the real soul that they come?
Yes, not all the dreams are real. Sometimes it's imagination from what we think during the day. Like for instance, if I go to a place and I see a picture of my uncle every day, and then I dream about him at night, it can be from what I've seen during the day. Sometimes there are demons who come in a dream with the custom of famous people. So if somebody goes to sleep and he thinks the Ben Ish Chai came to him in a dream, and the Ben Ish Chai told him, "You're a great tzaddik," and then he gets up in the morning and he's thinking to himself, how the Ben Ish Chai say I'm tzaddik? I'm Mechalel Shabbat. I drive with my car on Shabbat and smoke a cigarette. How can I be tzaddik? I violate Shabbat. So the answer is, it wasn't the Ben Ish Chai, and it wasn't the Baba Sali, and it wasn't Moshe Rabbeinu. It's called demons. Their name, according to Kabbalah, is Yehudain. Their name is Jews. Why they call them Jews? Because they come as custom of famous rabbis.
But is
Not all the soul goes. Some of the soul goes, some of the soul stay up. Also, a part of the soul stay in a grave forever. So the soul, sometimes the soul stay in Shamayim and some of it comes back in a body. Or sometimes the soul can come back in two bodies. Like Yitro and the Egyptian that Moshe killed, both of them were Cain. Cain came in two bodies, one in Yitro and one in the body of the Egyptian that Moshe killed. So Hevel paid Cain for two things that he did to him. One, he killed him, so he killed the Egyptian. And one, he gave him a woman, Tzipora. So that's how the correction were made. Sometimes the soul can come back in few bodies. If I'm not mistaken, I even saw that one soul can come back even in 1,000 bodies in the same generation. Imagine a whole group, you go to a school, 1,000 Talmidim, it's all one person. Reuven, all the 1,000 Talmidim is one person. He has to learn Gemara, he has to learn Midrash, he has to learn Halakha, he has to learn Musar. All the things he didn't do, Hashem said, you know what, in one life we'll correct everything. It's hard to understand Gilgulim. Believe me, I'm not blaming people that they have doubts and dilemmas about how it works. I'm only blaming those who deny that it exists, because that's against Torah, against logic, because in that case you said there's no justice. That Hashem punish righteous people for nothing. But when we understand the concept of the Gilgulim, which was scientifically proven, then it answers all the questions. Everything makes sense now. No, 2 or 3 more last questions for today. Here. Yeah, wait. You next, right there.
How about the people who doesn't know about Judaism?
People who does not know, and they had a chance to know and they don't want to come to learn, they are 100% guilty. People who does not know, but they did not have a chance to know, they are 100% innocent. And Hashem will judge them with a huge discount. If they did not come to learn because they were in Siberia and there was no rabbis there, no Judaism, they didn't see religious people, all of a sudden when they're 7 years old, someone comes to them and say, you know, John, you're really Jewish. Your mother didn't want to tell you, I'm telling you. You're really Jewish. He's 7 years old, he just found out. Of course Hashem won't punish him for not keeping Shabbat. What did he know from his life? So Hashem will judge him only for the things he did bad that he knew is bad. Stealing, hurting people, instigating, doing all kinds of bad things that everyone knows is wrong. But he won't judge him for Shabbat, for kosher food. So if he knew there is such a thing, Judaism, and he has relatives in his family, and he has a shul, and the rabbis, and his grandfather was a rabbi in Iran, and he came to America and he sold his soul to the money. He doesn't care about the Torah. Then he cannot say, I didn't know. He had all the tools to know. He comes to the rabbi here, and he's going to teach him. What does it mean, I don't know?
For example, Persian Jews who send their kids to Beverly High.
Yeah.
And they don't wear modest or black things. So
I tell you why it's a problematic question. Why? Because I don't know these Persian Jews who send their kids to public school, why they do it. So I tell you what's the possibility. One possibility is they don't have money for yeshiva. They really don't have, and they're embarrassed to collect donations, so maybe they don't have, so they send them to public school, which is free. That's the most common problem in the world, that parents who send their kids to public, not because they want, because it's expensive. Yeshiva, it's expensive. Second reason is because of academic. Some things in the mind of these parents tells them that if they go to yeshiva, they will never be doctors or lawyers or whatever they dreamed that their kids would be. Because in yeshiva, they learn a lot of Jewish studies, but they're not as high like public school in math and science. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's wrong. Some schools have very high academic. I have one of my son, he learns in a school, they learn very, very high level of math and science, and they also learn very high level of Torah. So there are yeshivot who teach very high academic. Sometimes the parents send their kids to public school because they know that if the kids will go to yeshiva, they will come back home religious, and they're not interested to have a policeman in a home. Because the kids would come and they say, Abba, why are you not keeping Shabbat? Mommy, why are you not doing this? Why that? They don't want this. They don't want to be religious. So they say, since we're destroying ourselves, what can we do? We'll destroy the children also, because the children will tell us what to do. There's many, many reasons. In order for me to answer that, I need to know the person individually.
My question is that how God...
He already asked 5 questions. Give a chance. Well, I told him you next. Right there.
Rabbi, you're talking about all kind of the neshama. Do you think the neshama watching all the people in the life?
Sometimes the neshama has permission to see things, sometimes not. Not everything the neshama sees.
So all the neshama, when the, for example, father, mother die.
Yes.
And the
They don't see what we do here.
neshama watching the kids, when all the living the life.
No, not all the time. Sometimes they get permission to see certain things, but in general, no, that's it.
A special day for the watching or what?
You try to get something out of me no matter what. Huh? I wish I can talk to Hashem. Hashem say one day a year send the grandparents to see their grandchildren.
I asked Laura, Rabbi, you don't give it the right answer about it.
No, there's no... I tell you, the people that die do not know all the details in this world after 7 days. Remember what I showed? 7 days after they die, that's it. They don't see what's happening here anymore. Only for if they see all the time, what's the special thing the Zohar said that they have permission 7 days to see? Based on that, they see all the time. So what's special about the 7 days? The answer is they only see for 1 week. That's it. After that, they're gone. The Gemara say, I just read to you, Gemara in Masechet Shabbat, page Kuf Nun Bet. The Gemara say that the connection of the soul ad she'isatem agolal, until it covers with the sand. After that, they cannot see what's happening here. That's it. That's the answer to your question, right there. Shh.
Because the baby before he born, he knows all the Torah, and Malach can put her hand.
Yes. Yes.
After he born, how he can remember the interior lives he has before.
First, I want to tell you something shocking. There's one person in Israel, that when he's about 68 years old now. 68. How do I know him? The person that I was learning with many years ago used to be in the same class like this person. When this person was born, the angel, for whatever reason, remember the rule? Every rule has an exception to the rule. This kid was born when he was 2 years old. He knew hundreds of pages of Gemara by heart. The angel did not make him forget. Imagine a little kid just came out of his crib and he tells you pages of Gemara, one after the other, Rambam, this, whatever, Zohar, whatever. What happened? They gathered him, the rabbis, together. If I remember correctly, it was the Rabbi from Belz. There was also Rav Yehuda Tzadka from Porat Yosef. Few rabbis. For whatever reason, the rabbi from Belz, he made him forget what the angel did not make him forget. Why they did it? There's different answer. One is they're afraid that he'll die from Ain Hara. Second reason, which makes a lot more sense to me, is they were afraid that he's gonna say which rabbi was right in questions in halacha, because Hashem gave us in the Torah the freedom to make halacha from the Torah and the Shas and the Poskim. Now sometimes you have Chazon Ish say it's Chilul Shabbat. Rav Ovadia Yosef, it says not Chilul Shabbat. If this kid will come back, he will say the answers to all the questions. It will make some of the rabbis look bad. Why? Because all of a sudden a little kid, 5 years old, he is already better than the Gdolei Ador, the big rabbis. It's a big embarrassment. So they say it cannot be something like this. The Mashiach come. Mashiach is a different story. Mashiach would say everyone was right because Hashem said to get the halacha from the Torah. But really what Hashem was opinion of Hashem was like this rabbi. You understand? Not that the other one was mistaken because they used the same Torah to prove. But it's very deep. It's endless. But all of a sudden, imagine such a scenario. You have Rav Chaim Kanievsky, Rav Ovadia, Rav Steinman, Rav Wozner, Rav Karelitz. They argue. Each one thinks something different. All of a sudden, a little kid comes, say, Rabbi, sit down, please. You also, you're right. So that's my opinion. I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Otherwise, I tell you what I would do. First of all, when it happened, there was no YouTube, there was no internet, there was no nothing. It was only rotary phone when it happens. I doubt it. Maybe it was 68 years ago. If it would happen today, First thing to do is to film him on YouTube. Imagine you see a little 2 years old, שניים אוחזים בטלית, זה אומר כולה שלי, זה אומר כולה שלי. He's telling you pages of Gemara one after the other. Think about it, what it would do to the world. The world will be in shock. And then you see that the Gemara said that the angel tap on a lip and he makes us forget, and here is the angel skip this guy. There will be a revolution in the world. Unfortunately, it wasn't done. This person is still alive, by the way.
What's his Torah knowledge now? He knows?
Not 1% of what he used to be when he was a baby.
So how do they make him forget?
I don't know what they did. I really don't know what happened in this room. Yes?
When the God created Adam Haba, is coming up Cain and Hevel, right?
Yes.
Okay. This world is going to be 4 persons.
No, wrong. Cain had one twin. No, Cain had one twin and Hevel had 2 twins.
But there is no name of this Cain and Hevel.
Remember what I spoke 2 hours ago, 10 minutes, I spoke about oral Torah. Remember oral Torah? Oral Torah tell you 99% of the things you don't read in a written Torah was given to Moshe Rabbeinu in Mount Sinai separately. Not every detail is in a written Torah. If everything Judaism has would be in one book, the size of the book would be all the way from Los Angeles to the moon. I'm not exaggerating. Do you know how long it would be? Look at the Torah. If you open the Torah, the scroll of the Torah, look how big is the shul. The Torah would go from here to the Aron Kodesh few times, back and forth. Only tiny drop from Judaism. Now, add the Zohar, add the Talmud Bavli, add the Talmud Yerushalmi, add the Rambam, add Shulchan Aruch, add Tur, add all the other ones. It will be all the way from here to New York, back and forth to Israel, to Zimbabwe, as much as you want, and we're still not going to finish. You cannot put everything in one book. So now people say, how come this is not in a written Torah? How come this? If everything would be in a written Torah, nobody can carry it. Nobody. Imagine now, they give me sometimes the Ashkenazim, they give me Agba'ah. Sometimes the Sefer Torah is so heavy, I feel I'm falling. Imagine how everything would be in it. Huh?
It's hard to believe it.
No, it's not hard at all. If you listen to everything I said before, there's no argument about it, because you cannot keep one mitzvah without the oral Torah. Why don't you ask me, how come the Torah didn't say the word tefillin? Why don't you ask me, how come the Torah did not write all the 39 melachot one after the one?
Because always I'm listening just all the time, is the heaven.
Why kind of heaven? Wait, do you think that the Torah... Wait, I don't understand. Do you really think the Torah spoke about every person who was ever born in history? Everyone? The Torah spoke about tiny amount of people. Some of the people the Torah doesn't... You know how many wives in the Torah doesn't even mention them? There are certain people in the Torah, they were very important people. The Torah doesn't say who the mother was. You don't read. Why? It's not important for the story. Yeah, maybe she was a righteous woman. It's not important for the world to know who was the mother of this tzaddik. Sometimes it was important, like Sarah, she was a prophet. Many times the Torah doesn't speak about the mother. Thank you for coming. Thank you, Rabbi.